Chapter 493. When Wang Daoyuan arrived at the underground cave 1,000 miles southeast of the mysterious Yin Spring, he couldn't help but sigh. Back then he was only in the early stage of foundation establishment when he was cornered by that Wu brat in the mysterious Yin market. Now that more than 100 years had passed, he was already in the late stage of the Purple Mansion realm. He wondered if those people from the mysterious Yin market were still there. With the soul-chasing bee leading the way, he soon arrived at the cave where he found the earth vein spiritual essence. Back then he used the earth wall technique to seal the stone wall, which wasn't very strong. Without using the dust-returning flame, he punched a hole in the stone wall. He walked into the stone room and looked at the place where the earth vein spiritual essence was produced. After more than 100 years, it still didn't produce a drop of earth vein spiritual essence. The earth vein spiritual essence here wasn't very useful to him anymore. There weren't any non-elemental spiritual veins in the spiritual pearl. It was useless to cut off the stalactite and take it away. He decided to come again when he had a non-elemental spiritual vein in the future. His target was the lava lake in the stone room. The lava mainly contained fire and earth spiritual energy, with a small amount of other spiritual energy. Wang Daoyuan drew out a wisp of red sun primordial fire and a wisp of dust-returning flame from the spiritual pearl and placed them in the lava. The lava under the entire Beiyuan Zhou Xian was connected. The fire and earth elemental spiritual energy within it could be said to be inexhaustible. Moreover, using spiritual fire to burn the lava was much faster than burning stones. The two flames burned fiercely as soon as they came into contact with the lava and soon covered the entire lava lake. The red sun primordial fire couldn't burn away from the lava lake. On the other hand, if the dust-returning flame was left alone, the surrounding stone walls would suffer. Wang Daoyuan constantly drew out the essence of the dust-returning flame. A part of it was used for cultivation, but most of it was used to nourish the earth's spiritual fire. Half a month later, he took out a sesame-sized red sun primordial fire from the spiritual pearl and threw it into the lava lake. The fire seed absorbed the essence of the flame to stabilize itself. The red sun primordial fire could only burn in the lava lake, which was only a few acres in size. The fire seed could draw spiritual energy from the surrounding flames. It only took 2 hours for the fire seed to stabilize. This speed was dozens of times faster than when they were burning the stone walls and mineral veins. Wang Daoyuan also took out the earth attribute pseudo-spiritual fire and placed it in the lava lake. He originally wanted to leave after condensing the pseudo-spiritual fire, but now he was somewhat reluctant to do so. The growth speed of these two pseudo-spirit fires far exceeded that of the wood attribute pseudo-spirit fire. It just so happened that this place was very safe. When the pseudo-spiritual fire was formed, he would refine the spiritual fire here. After staying here for a year, the fire seed of the fire-attributed pseudo-spirit flame was already the size of 2 sesame seeds. The fire seed of the earth attribute pseudo-spiritual fire was already half the size of a green bean. He did not need to care about the 2 pseudo-spiritual fires. Every day, other than cultivating, he would use the communication jade talisman to flirt with Zhou Xian. There was also good news in the space of the spirit pearl. The Tai golden flame had finally become an upper-grade level 3 spiritual fire after burning through more than 10,000 kilograms of black iron crystals. As long as he could condense the water attribute pseudo-spiritual fire, he could refine the spiritual fire. The red-feathered crow finally grew a golden red feather on its tail. Its spirit energy fluctuation was very strong, and it also had a rich pure yang qi and fire attribute spirit energy. However, the feather had just grown out and was only about 3 inches long. It was far from enough to refine the vermilion bird fan. However, since it had already grown out, it was only a matter of time. He just had to wait slowly. Wang Daoyuan took out his clone Cui Ming from the space of the spirit pearl. He asked him to watch the 2 pseudo-spiritual fires near the magma lake. Wang Daoyuan himself went to the Gui water nether spring to condense the water attribute pseudo-spiritual fire. The straight-line distance from the Gui water nether spring to this place was only a little more than 1,000 miles. Wang Daoyuan could completely sense the clone in a panoramic view. If there were any problems, he could quickly rush over. The fire seed of the earth attribute pseudo-spiritual fire was strong enough to suppress the flames and would not burn everywhere. Wang Daoyuan left the magma lake and soon arrived near the Gui water nether spring. Back then, in order to block the spring, the stone wall condensed with the earth wall technique was still intact. The yin qi that he could not bear at that time had no effect on him now. There was no need to destroy the stone wall with the Gui water nether flame's pseudo-spiritual fire. Back then he dug an underground space to draw the spring water. At the entrance of the space he opened up a small hole half an inch in diameter. The spring water quickly spurted out from the small hole. The amount of water was not large. In a breath, it could only produce 20 to 30 pounds of water. In a breath, the Gui water nether spring could produce a few hundred pounds of water. The amount of water drawn out would not cause too much of an impact on the water vein. Now that the underworld sect felt the threat of the old family, if there was a problem with the water vein here, it would cause the yin qi of the nether water river at the underworld sect's mountain gate to disappear. In a panic, this group of grandsons may attack the cultivators of the old family. As the leader of the old family, the Wang family would definitely suffer heavy losses. This Gui water nether spring was a grade 4 spirit spring with extremely rich spiritual qi. It could not be more suitable to condense the water attribute pseudo-spiritual fire. 20 to 30 pounds of water in a breath was enough. Wang Daoyuan drew out a wisp of the Gui water nether flame to ignite the spring water. The spring water and the Gui water nether flame came from the same source. It was suitable for the Gui water nether flame to burn. The 20 to 30 pounds of spring water that gushed out in a breath could not flow anywhere else. It was all burned by the flame and turned into flame essence. Half a month later, Wang Daoyuan took out the sesame-sized Gui water nether flame and merged it into the black flame in front of him. The Gui water nether spring was indeed a grade 4 spirit spring. The growth rate of the water attribute pseudo-spiritual fire was even faster than the 2 pseudo-spiritual fires in the lava lake. In just over an hour the pseudo-spiritual fire stabilized. Wang Daoyuan was not in a hurry to leave. Instead he let the pseudo-spiritual fire absorb more spiritual energy. After all, the reason why the pseudo-spiritual fire had the word pseudo was because it was not stable enough. Especially the newly formed water attribute pseudo-spiritual fire, it was only slightly stronger than the rootless fire without a fire seed. If it encountered a greater disturbance it was very likely to be extinguished. After the spiritual fire was refined, the pseudo-spiritual fire would be extinguished. At that time, it would be troublesome to take out the refined spiritual fire and condense the pseudo-spiritual fire. There was no need to wait for all the pseudo-spiritual fires to grow into spiritual fires. As long as their fire seeds were half the size of a green bean, they would not be extinguished easily. At the same time he also made some preparations to refine the spiritual fire. Although the refining method of the spiritual fire left by the 5 elements Taoist would almost never cause a backlash from the spiritual fire, it was still better to be safe. After all, the 5 elements Taoist only refined the dust-returning flame when he was at the early Jindan stage. At that time his physical body was much stronger than his. Before that he still had to do his best to increase the strength of his physical body. He took out a blood lotus seed. This was a treasure that could strengthen the physical body. Previously he had also asked the flying sand cultivator about how to use it. At the treasure cauldron mountain he had also asked his master about the blood lotus seed. This thing could be directly consumed without worrying about being affected by the demonic qi and blood qi. Wang Daoyuan's own spiritual energy contained various special attributes. Furthermore, the 5 elements demon subduing seal could restrain the demon race. Even if there was some demonic qi in the blood lotus seed, it would not be able to create any big waves. After swallowing a blood lotus seed before refining it, the blood lotus seed would turn into pure qi and blood and merge into the blood of the body. Wang Daoyuan immediately circulated the body tempering technique of the 5 spirits immortal art. He used the 5 elements spiritual energy to nourish his internal organs and meridians, and then his entire body. It took him more than a month to completely consume the qi and blood force. It took a year for the effects of the blood lotus seed to subside. At this moment Wang Daoyuan could defeat an ordinary late-stage Sifu realm cultivator with just the strength of his physical body. The fire seed of the pseudo-spiritual fire was half the size of a green bean and would not be extinguished easily. Everything was ready. It was time to refine the spiritual fire. Chapter 494. Wang Daoyuan stored the water attribute pseudo-spirit fire into the space of the spirit pearl and placed it in the water attribute spirit vein. He used the earth mountain technique to block the small hole that gushed out of the spring water. Then he left the Gui water nether spring and returned to the lava lake. After storing the fire and earth pseudo-spirit fires into the space of the spirit pearl, The fire seed of the fire attribute pseudo-spirit fire was already half the size of a green bean. However, the fire seed of the earth attribute pseudo-spirit fire did not increase by much. The bigger the fire seed, the harder it was to continue growing. Coupled with the fact that the fire seed's restrictions on the spirit fire increased, the growth of the pseudo-spirit fire would obviously slow down. After the fire seed was half the size of a green bean, it could not grow rapidly no matter how many resources were used. It could only be slowly ground down with time under the premise of sufficient resources. If not for that, perfected Lord 100 spirits would not have taken 200 years to condense the scarlet yang true fire. Putting away his doppelganger, he meditated by the lava lake to adjust his condition to the best state. Among the 5 elemental spirit fires, the wood attribute spiritual fire was the most gentle. He started refining with it. From the space of the spirit pearl he drew out a wisp of life spiritual fire. This time he did not extract the spirit energy within. Instead he guided the wisp of spiritual fire into his dantian through his meridians and finally merged it with the wood attribute spiritual power seed. This was to first integrate a wisp of rootless fire and let the spiritual power seed fuse with it. After that he guided the fire seed into his body and fused it with the spiritual power seed. This way there would not be any rejection. A day later his entire wood attribute spiritual power seed was slowly burning. The spiritual power seed and rootless fire could be considered to have successfully fused. Then he converted all the spirit energy in his body into metal attribute spirit energy. Once the life spiritual fire was noisy, he could use his spirit energy to suppress it. Next it was time to guide the life spiritual fire. However, the life spiritual fire grew from the peach tree sapling and merged with the top bud of the sapling. To refine the spiritual fire he had to separate the fire seed first. Wang Daoyuan's spirit entered the space of the spirit pearl. As the owner of the space he had a certain degree of control over the things in the space. Although he did not refine the spiritual fire, no spiritual fire dared to be arrogant in the space. His spirit released the power of spirit consciousness and separated the life spiritual fire from the peach tree sapling. The sapling and the life spiritual fire did not resist much and separated. He controlled the life spiritual fire to leave the space of the spirit pearl and followed his meridians to his dantian. Then he fused it into the wood elemental spiritual power seed. Since the wood attributed spiritual power seed had already turned into a rootless flame, it didn't reject the flame of life. After that, the entire spiritual power seed burned intensely, constantly consuming the spiritual power seed. Wang Daoyuan immediately used the secret method to refine the spiritual fire, completely fusing the spiritual fire seed and the spiritual energy seed into one. If the spirit power seed could not be fused with the fire seed before it was exhausted, then the refinement would fail. However, the life spiritual fire had never been troublesome. It was completely controlled by Wang Daoyuan without much struggle. Half a month later, the tinder of the flame of life had completely merged with the spiritual energy seed and completely replaced the previous seed. The structure of the wood elemental spiritual power seed was the same as before, except that the wood elemental spiritual power with life force had changed to the origin of spiritual fire. Once the fusion was complete, the refinement would be a success. Refining the life spirit fire did not cause any problems. His body did not suffer any damage either. After refining the first spiritual fire, the rest was simple. The second target was the dust returning flame. Among the 5 elements would countered earth. Since he had already refined the life spirit fire, he was not afraid that the dust returning flame would cause trouble. Once there was an abnormality, he could use the life spirit fire to suppress the dust returning flame. Before that, he first converted all the spiritual power in his body into wood elemental to prevent the dust returning flame from causing trouble. The method was the same. First, he fused the rootless flame with the spiritual power seed, then the tinder. Because the dust returning flame was corrosive, he first used the life spirit fire to envelop his meridians when moving it from the space of the spiritual pearl into his dantian. After the dust returning flame left the space of the spiritual pearl, it began to burn intensely. Wang Daoyuan quickly mobilized his spiritual power to suppress the dust returning flame. The fire quickly subsided and smoothly entered his dantian. The spiritual fire was called spiritual fire because it had a trace of spirituality. Although it could not be considered sentient, it would still seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. During the fusion process, the dust-returning flame felt threatened and wanted to resist. However, it was all wood elemental spiritual power in his dantian, without a trace of earth elemental spiritual power. The dust-returning flame was isolated and helpless. Under the dual suppression of the spirit consciousness and the life-spirit fire, the dust-returning flame yielded. This time it took a longer time and took a month to complete the refinement. Next was the Gui water death flame. Earth countered water and water countered wood. Under the dual suppression of the life-spirit fire and the dust-returning flame, the Gui water death flame could only accept its fate. Back then, when he first obtained the Gui water death flame, he nearly lost his life. However, after the Gui water death flame was kept in the space of the spiritual pearl, it was subdued by the life-spirit fire and the dust-returning flame. The refinement method was the same. However, the Gui water death flame was more wild and wanted to resist after leaving the space of the spiritual pearl. Under the suppression of the two spiritual fires, it did not cause any big waves. A month later, the Gui water death flame was also refined. After that, it was the scarlet yang true fire and the Tai golden flame. With the suppression of multiple spiritual fires, they did not cause any trouble. 2 months later, the refinement of the 5 spiritual fires was completed. Wang Daoyuan circulated the 5 spirit immortal transformation technique, and a spirit qi wind appeared in the cave immediately. As soon as the spirit qi from the outside world was absorbed into his dantian, the 5 spiritual power seeds ignited it and quickly refined it. In terms of the speed of refining spirit qi into spirit qi, the celestial spirit root was not qualified to compete with him. The refined spirit qi was extremely pure and he tried to condense it into vital essence. The spiritual power seeds could not help in this step, but because of the purity of the spirit qi, the speed was not much worse than the average celestial spirit root. There were also differences between celestial spirit roots. A 9-inch single spirit root was a celestial spirit root and a 1-foot single spirit root was also a celestial spirit root. The difference between the two was not small. From the time the spirit qi entered the body to the time it was condensed into vital essence, the time it took was considered average among celestial spirit root cultivators. In other words, his overall cultivation speed was comparable to a celestial spirit root cultivator with a 9.5-inch spirit root. As for the speed of recovering spirit qi, the celestial spirit root was not qualified to compete with him, unless it was a celestial spirit root that had refined the spiritual fire. The spiritual fire also had an extremely strong growth potential. Now these spiritual fires were only 3rd level upper grade. When they grew to 4th level in the future, the speed of refining spirit qi would definitely increase. At this time, the spirit qi in Wang Daoyuan's body could be transformed between spiritual fire and spirit qi. Transforming the metal attribute spirit qi into the Tai golden flame and casually using the golden saber technique, the small saber condensed was completely composed of the rootless fire of the Tai golden flame. This was not strange. The purple lightning from the purple lightning evil punishing token was also burning with purple flames. Cultivators with spiritual fire all had this ability. However, his dust-returning flame and Gui water death flame had special functions. One could corrode all substances and the other could burn the divine sense and soul. Transforming the earth attribute spirit qi and water attribute spirit qi into spiritual fire and using an ordinary sand flying technique, the sky would be filled with dust-returning flame. Using the cloud mist escape would have similar effects. Together with the Suzuka fan and the heaven-burning divine flame technique, the spiritual fire alone could completely defeat those of the same level. Now that he had refined the spiritual fire, according to this cultivation speed, his spirit qi cultivation could reach the peak of the Purple Mansion realm in more than 10 years, which was Zhou Xian's current state. After that, he could find an excuse to go to his master and comprehend the Golden Core realm. In the space of the spiritual pearl, the concentration of spirit qi had decreased significantly after losing 5 spiritual fires. Previously it was very close to the level of 4th level spirit vein, but now it was only at the beginning of 3rd level upper grade. However, the life spiritual fire's seed fire and the 4 pseudo-spiritual fires had replaced the spiritual fire. Now that there was no spiritual fire to compete with them for spirit qi, their growth speed was obviously faster. It seemed that it would take at most 5 or 6 years for all of them to become real spiritual fires. Chapter 495. After fusing with the spiritual fire, there would be a flaw, and that was that it would be very difficult to suppress the spiritual power seed. The special attributes of the 5 elemental spiritual energies would be particularly obvious, and others would easily discover that his spiritual energies were very heterogeneous. A cultivator with mixed spiritual power who wasn't an evil cultivator, anyone could guess that it was him. If he wanted to hide his identity, he could only wear the soul-binding silk Taoist robe at all times. After forming the golden core, it didn't matter anymore. With the 5 elemental spiritual fire and the 5 elemental devil subduing seal, even a golden core late-stage cultivator would not be able to take him down easily. The half-step Yuanying was something that only the 4 top forces had. They wouldn't appear so easily. At that time, even if it was exposed that he had the spiritual fire, no one would be able to do anything to him. It was only during this period of time before he formed his gold core that he had to act like a grandson. Wang Daoyuan left the underground cave and hid his tracks before returning to his family. He handed the yin-yang cub to his third brother Wang Daochong, and asked him to arrange for suitable clansmen to open up their zifu. Then he headed to the sky/mountain range again. This time he wasn't heading towards returning Wild Goose Market, but towards the Heavenly/Mountain Range's main vein. It was time to explore the passage left behind by the 10,000 Corpse Taoist master. Of course, he would not be the one to explore it. His clone Xingping would be the one to do so. Xingping was a half-corpse and didn't have many years left to live. Instead of letting him die of old age, he might as well use his remaining energy to explore the way. The myriad corpse Taoist master didn't have much information about that place in the vast ocean records. He only knew that it was made up of river valleys and alluvial plains, similar to Linhai Prefecture. However, it was shrouded in clouds all year round. The closer it was to the sea, the thicker the clouds. He wasn't too sure about the specifics. Xingping was at the late-stage Violet Palace realm. Thus, it was very likely that he would succeed in exploring this path. Wang Daoyuan erased all of Xingping's memories and gave him a few defensive Dharma artifacts and a soul-binding silk cloak. Even if the exploration failed, they would only lose a subsoul. If he succeeded, he would be able to figure out the situation east of the Heaven/Mountain Range without having to take any risks himself. In the future, if he were to develop in that direction, he would be able to take fewer detours. North of Mount Huiyan, about 1,000 kilometers away from the Heavenly/Mountain Range's main mountain range, he released Xingping and returned to Jade Spring Peak. The matter of taking office in Guiyan City Square could not be delayed any longer. It had been more than 2 years since he accepted the appointment. If this dragged on, those bastards from the local faction would probably make things difficult for him. Setting off from the Jade Spring Peak, he swaggered towards Gold Goose City to visit the 12th uncle who was stationed there and left him 50 purple rhythm pills. Then he flew to Guiyan Market. The former guardian already knew that Wang Daoyuan had swaggered over. The previous protector was a local cultivator of the Netherworld School, a middle Zifu disciple named Ming Huai. He was a disciple of the Dark Sea Master's family. Before the Dark Sea Master passed away, he was the strongest person in the Underworld sect. The Ming family was also in the limelight. Ming Huai relied on Ming Haizhenren's strength to obtain the position of guardian of returning Wild Goose Market. Now that the situation in Shanbei had changed, the guardian of Guiyan Market had become a hot potato. Ming Huai had wanted to leave long ago, but Ming Hai's spiritual master had passed away, and the Ming family's status was not as good as before. It would be difficult for Ming Huai to transfer him away. Now the Netherworld sect began to suppress the family and placed Wang Daoyuan here. Ming Huai was impatient to have the chance to leave this troublesome place. When Wang Daoyuan arrived at the Netherworld sect's encampment, Ming Huai led 4 Zifu disciples out to welcome him. In the past, Guiyan Market only had 1 Zifu disciple overseeing it. Ever since the 3 sects stopped fighting and wanted to deal with the Guiyuan Sword sect, they increased their strength in Guiyan Market. In these years, Guiyan Market had always had 5 Zifu disciples and 30 Foundation Establishment cultivators. Ming Huai greeted, "Manager Wang has finally arrived. I've been waiting for a long time. Please come in and have a seat." Wang Daoyuan followed Ming Huai into the encampment. Ming Huai handed several beast-skin books to Wang Daoyuan. "Manager Wang, these are the account books left behind by the previous guardians of returning Wild Goose Market. The top book is from when I was in charge." Wang Daoyuan took the beast-skin book and only flipped through the top book. Then Ming Huai brought him to the treasury and compared the remaining items to see if they matched the contents of the account books. As long as the account books matched the items, nothing else mattered. As for what Ming Huai did to the account books, it was not his responsibility. If there were any problems in the future, it would not be his fault. After confirming that there were no mistakes, Ming Huai handed over the Guardian's seal and the treasury key and said with a smile, "The position of Guardian will be completely handed over to Manager Wang. The factions in Guiyuan Market are intricate and complicated. Our Netherworld sect is one of them. The half-demons and demons each have one, and there is also a small human faction in Shanbei. The small human factions are weak and do not dare to provoke our Netherworld sect, so there is no need to care about them. The demons and half-demons are strong and need to be dealt with carefully. Manager Wang should have heard of the conflict between the two sides. You must not provoke them." He was too clear about the demons and half-demons. Originally, the conflict between the two factions was not too big, but he and Zhou Xian had been fanning the flames, causing the conflict between the two sides to escalate. Now Zhou Xian had stopped, so the demons and half-demons should not fight for a while. Before he formed his core, he had to prioritize stability and try not to cause any trouble. Wang Daoyuan nodded. "Don't worry, I know the severity of the matter. I will not get involved in the matters between half-demons and demons." Ming Huai smiled. "In that case, I can rest assured. I have already told you what I wanted to tell you. Goodbye." After sending Ming Huai off, Wang Daoyuan also got to know his subordinates. Of the 4 Zifu realm cultivators who stayed in Guiyuan Market, 2 were from the old family and 2 were cultivators from outside. Among the cultivators from the family, there was a familiar person. This person was called Jiang Jingming. After the battle at Wuqing Pass, Jiang Jingming brought him to the Netherworld sect to receive his reward. Along the way, the two of them talked quite a bit. Jiang Jingming's Jiang family was in the south of Qingli County. There was no outstanding person among the Jiang family's descendants. Back then, Jiang Jingming tried to get close to him, hoping that Wang Daoyuan would take care of the Jiang family. Wang Daoyuan clasped his hands towards him. "Jiang Daoyu, long time no see. I didn't expect you to be here as well." Jiang Jingming hurriedly bowed. "Greetings, Steward Wang. In the future I will be working under you. Please take good care of me." Wang Daoyuan stayed in the encampment for a few months, then gathered the 4 Zifu realm cultivators and handed the Protector's seal and a jade talisman to Jiang Jingming. He said to them, "The spiritual energy here is too thin. It will hinder cultivation. I plan to leave the market and find a nearby place suitable for cultivation. When I am not here, Elder Jiang Jingming will be in charge of everything. If you have any objections, wait for me to return before reporting them. Before I return, you must be obedient. I don't care which faction you belong to. I don't have the time to make things difficult for you, but don't make trouble for me either. Elder Jiang, I won't be too far away from Guiyuan Market. If you encounter any problems that you cannot resolve, send me a message. I will quickly return." The 4 of them repeatedly promised that they would take good care of the affairs of Guiyuan Market. Although Jiang Jingming's talent for cultivation was lacking, his ability to handle affairs wasn't weak. With the seal he had left behind, it wasn't a problem for him to keep 2 outsider Zifu realm cultivators in check. The upper echelons of the Netherworld school weren't very strict with the various protectors. As long as nothing happened, the protectors could do whatever they wanted. Even if something did happen, at most they would be charged with dereliction of duty. The Netherworld school dared to suppress him, but they didn't dare to act against him directly. After all, he still had the status of being the disciple of Adept Thunderflame. If they acted against him directly, Adept Thunderflame would take revenge on them. Wang Daoyuan hid his power, leaving Guiyuan Market. He took a long detour, then arrived at the Blood Shadow North Mountain branch. In the following period of time, he was going to train hard. The Netherworld school's encampment was simply too boring. It was better to train in Zhou Xian's estate. Chapter 496. Wang Daoyuan entered Zhou Xian's cave abode and smiled. "Oh master, I'm back. A day apart feels like 3 autumns, and we haven't seen each other for over 3,000 years. How have you been?" Without waiting for Zhou Xian's reply, he sat down on the stone chair. Holding a spiritual fruit, he gnawed on it while saying, "It still feels good to be home." Zhou Xian no longer took his teasing seriously. She walked out of the backyard and asked, "Why do I feel that your aura isn't right? What have you been doing for the past 3 years?" Wang Daoyuan took off the spirit-restricting silk cloak. It's nothing. I refined spiritual fire, and my spiritual energy has the characteristics of spiritual fire. Zhou Xian used her spiritual sense to examine him and asked worriedly, refining spiritual fire is extremely dangerous, and you will be severely injured if you're not careful. You refined 5 spiritual fires so you're not injured, right? Wang Daoyuan smirked. Don't worry. The method of refining spiritual fire is part of my cultivation technique, so I didn't even suffer any backlash. My body is much stronger than before, especially my kidneys. They are much stronger than before. Zhou Xian was teased by him many times, so she naturally understood the meaning in his words and threw the spiritual fruit in her hand at him. Wang Daoyuan caught the spiritual fruit and ate it. "Oh master, are you feeding me? Alright, how's your comprehension of the Golden Core realm? My strength has increased greatly, and I can fight with ordinary early-stage Golden Core realm cultivators. I can protect you." Zhou Xian sighed. How can it be that easy? My comprehension of the Violet Palace realm is enough, and I should be at the peak of the Violet Palace realm. But at the Golden Core realm, it involves the power of laws. This is also the reason why there is a heavenly tribulation when breaking through to the Golden Core realm. Most cultivators at the peak of the Violet Palace realm don't have a strong enough body and can't comprehend the laws. I have a special physique, so there's no problem with my body. It was just that comprehending laws completely depended on luck. If you're lucky, you'll be able to comprehend it all of a sudden. If you're unlucky, even if you're daydreaming for 100 years, it'll be useless. Wang Daoyuan ignited a wisp of crimson yang true fire in his hand. If you want to comprehend other laws, I really can't help you. But I can help you with the laws of fire. I have refined the spiritual fire and my entire body is covered in flames. Why don't I stay in your room? You can just stare at me when you comprehend the laws. I don't mind. Zhou Xian glanced at him. In your dreams. Stay in the front yard. If you dare to enter the backyard, I'll cut you down with my sword. She condensed a ball of fire attribute spiritual power in her hand and used it to draw in the scarlet yang real fire in Wang Daoyuan's hands. The moment the scarlet yang real fire came into contact with the fire attribute spiritual energy, it began to burn. Wang Daoyuan spurred the flame and the flame suddenly shot up more than a foot high. He said proudly, "The true fire of scarlet yang is too dangerous. It's better for me to stay in your room and protect you." Zhou Xian took out the scarlet yuan flowing flame sword and pointed it below his waist. "If you dare to play tricks again, you'll have to bear the consequences." Wang Daoyuan felt a fatal threat and immediately gave in. Zhou Xian drew away a wisp of rootless fire and intimidated Wang Daoyuan. She returned to the backyard complacently. Wang Daoyuan also swallowed a purple rhythm pill and sat down to cultivate. After refining the purple rhythm pill, the spiritual power contained in it entered his dantian. The 5 spiritual power seeds were like wolves seeing lambs, and instantly swallowed the spiritual power. The purple rhythm pill's effect of increasing cultivation was gone just like that. Of course, there was also an advantage. The pill toxins were also gone. No matter how strong the pill toxins were, they could not escape from the 5 elements. Naturally, they could not escape the refinement of the 5 elements spiritual fire. In the future, when he reached the Golden Core realm, his body would be even stronger. He could use the 5 elements spiritual fire to refine all the accumulated pill toxins in his body. In order to preserve the effects of the purple rhythm pill, he had to suppress the 5 spiritual power seeds. His cultivation speed was not as fast as not taking the pill. There was no point in taking the purple rhythm pill in the future. He might as well keep the purple rhythm pill and use other spiritual items to increase his cultivation. He took out a jar of 100-year-old spiritual peach dew. He had plenty of older spiritual peach dew, but he did not dare to take it out. Zhou Xian was also an alcoholic. If he took it out, it would be snatched away. So it was not easy to explain the age. He drank the jar of spiritual wine. There was no need to refine the spiritual wine. The spiritual wine could enter his meridians in a dozen breaths. Wang Daoyuan drew the spiritual power into his dantian and the 5 spiritual fires instantly devoured the spiritual power. This speed was several times faster than normal cultivation. It felt great to have resources and the ability to use them quickly. After cultivating in Zhou Xian's cave abode for 7 years, his cultivation had reached the pinnacle of the Violet Palace realm. As early as a year ago, his spiritual power cultivation had already reached the Great Circle. As for the comprehension of the Violet Palace realm, it wasn't difficult. There was the comprehension of the five-element Taoist, the myriad corpse Taoist, the patriarch and his master, the thunderflame Taoist, as well as Zhou Wan's one-on-one teaching. It only took a year for him to reach the pinnacle of the Violet Palace realm. Jiang Jingming's ability wasn't weak in the underworld sect's encampment. He could handle all kinds of matters well. He would only be contacted when there was a major issue. In the past few years, Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan did not fan the flames between the demon race and half-demon race. The situation between the two sides had eased up a little. What Jiang Jingming had to deal with were the trivial matters of the daily transactions with the demon race and half-demon race. In the spiritual pearl, the 4 spiritual fires had also grown to the level of spiritual fires. However, their grades were still a little low. Apart from the spiritual fire of life, which was a 3rd-grade spiritual fire, the other 4 spiritual fires were only 2nd-grade spiritual fires. The expansion of the spiritual field in the spiritual pearl had also slowed down. In the past, it would take 20 years to expand 1 mu of spiritual field. Now it would take 100 years. However, the spiritual fire had a high growth rate. The spiritual field would grow faster in the future. The red-winged crow's cultivation had also reached 3rd-grade spiritual fire, and its origin feather was already a foot long. It could be used to refine the vermilion bird fan. The largest blood fire hibiscus was also 3rd-grade spiritual fire, so it wouldn't be a problem to refine it into a fan handle. The red-winged crow's fighting strength wasn't much weaker than Lin Yun's. However, it couldn't show itself. Otherwise, it would be exposed in the 100 Spirit Lord's cave abode. Wang Daoyuan had been using all kinds of fire attribute spiritual items to tempt the red-winged crow to hand over its origin feather. The red-winged crow had the bloodline of a divine beast and was extremely intelligent. However, it had been staying in the spiritual pearl all this time and was relatively naive. How could it compete with the cunning Wang Daoyuan? It quickly agreed to hand over its origin feather. Wang Daoyuan didn't have to pull it out himself. The bird could let its origin feather fall off on its own. The red-winged crow didn't suffer any serious injuries after losing its origin feather. It was just a little listless and its spiritual power was unstable. After eating some fire attribute spiritual items, it stayed near the red sun primordial fire to rest. Wang Daoyuan placed this origin feather on the red sun primordial fire to slowly nourish it. Using the primordial fire to refine the impurities, it could be refined into the vermilion bird fan. The other 4 origin feather had been nourished with spiritual fire for many years. Even the weakest one, the wood attribute origin feather, had advanced to 3rd-grade spiritual fire. At this time, a violent fluctuation of fire spiritual power came from the backyard of the cave abode. How could Wang Daoyuan let go of such an opportunity? He immediately ran into the backyard garden. Just as he was about to enter the boudoir to take a look, he heard an unusually wild laughter. Brat surnamed Wang. Before she finished speaking, Wang Daoyuan hurriedly asked, "Hall Master, have you thought it through? Do you want me to protect you?" Zhou Wan walked out of the boudoir and glanced at him. "You wish. I have comprehended a trace of the law of fire. The time to form my core has come." Wang Daoyuan asked, "Do you have a place to form your core?" "The place I know of with abundant fire spiritual power is only 3rd-grade spiritual fire. It's really not enough to form my core." Zhou Wan said proudly, "Your ability to find spiritual veins is far inferior to mine. I have already found a place to form my core. It's at the Snow Dragon volcano. All you need to do is to prepare and protect me." Wang Daoyuan had heard of the Snow Dragon volcano. There was a 4th-grade spiritual fire there. However, because it was near the Arctic ice fields, there was often snow on the mountain. The supply of spiritual power was definitely not a problem to form his core there. The biggest problem was that it could easily disturb the demon race in the Arctic ice fields. Chapter 497. Wang Daoyuan pondered for a long time before asking, "I don't know much about the Snow Dragon volcano. I only know that it's not far from the frozen ice plains. With my strength, it'll be good if I can take down 1 4th-rank demon beast. If a large number of 4th-rank demon beasts are attracted, I won't be able to do anything." Zhou Wan didn't care at all. "Don't worry, the Snow Dragon volcano is more than 20,000 kilometers away from the frozen ice plains. The core formation process won't attract attention before the heavenly tribulation. After the core formation is successful, the tribulation will cause a bigger commotion. Even if the tribulation is successful, it won't take more than 2 hours. Demon beasts are naturally afraid of heavenly might, so they don't dare to approach during the tribulation. It's only during the heavenly tribulation that they dare to take advantage of it. In the end, the heavenly tribulation will only take about 15 minutes. Excluding the time it takes for demon beasts to arrive, you only need to hold on for a little while. When the heavenly tribulation is over, we can escape. Wang Daoyuan nodded. It hasn't even been 15 minutes, so there should only be a few demon beasts that dare to come. However, do you have any spiritual items that can assist in core formation? Zhou Xian shook her head. The 4 top forces and Blood Shadow don't have a stable supply of such items. In the past, there were some spiritual plants that could assist in core formation. Now that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is insufficient, these spiritual plants are either dead or half dead. The only stable spiritual item that can assist in core formation is the inner core of a 4th-rank demon beast, also known as a demon beast golden core. 4th-rank demon beasts can fly, so we can't catch them with just 2 peak Zifu realm cultivators. Fortunately, the most dangerous part of core formation is the heavenly tribulation. Even if the process of forming a golden core fails, there won't be any danger. At most, the body will be damaged and it'll be fine after a few decades of recuperation. This was also true. The success rate of core formation mainly depended on the amount of qi, blood, and true essence. If the qi, blood, and true essence were abundant, and the body was strong enough, the probability of forming a golden core was very high. Most of those who failed to form a golden core died under the heavenly tribulation. Moreover, if the body and true essence didn't reach the level of core formation, no one would try. Zhou Wan's talent was even stronger than the 12th uncle's. Although she didn't have a heavenly spirit root, she wasn't far from it. On top of that, with his unique constitution, his physical body and his blood qi were not weak. It was not difficult for him to condense a golden core. Wang Daoyuan asked again, how do you deal with the heavenly tribulation? You have the Zhou family's ancestral battle constitution. After you formed your gold core, you automatically awakened a minor divine ability. After the 9 golden core heavenly tribulations, there will be a minor divine ability tribulation. Have you thought about how to deal with it? I've even thought of the child's name. Don't be too hard on yourself. The heavenly tribulation could only be withstood by oneself. If others were to participate, not only would it worsen the heavenly tribulation, they would also be trapped in it. Those who interfered would not be facing heavenly tribulation but heavenly punishment. The heavenly tribulation was a test, and there would always be a chance of survival. The heavenly punishment was relentless. Even though she was used to being teased, Zhou Wan's cheeks still turned red. If you can think of it, how can I not? Do you really think that I've been a hall master for more than 200 years just because I've been doing nothing? I've prepared 5 defensive magic tools to resist the lightning tribulation, and I've also prepared healing and recovery pills. With the 9 golden core heavenly tribulations and the minor divine ability tribulation, I can still withstand it. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, then I'm relieved. I didn't think of the child's name in vain. I still need about a year to refine the vermilion bird fan. With 4 of the 5 life-bound magic tools of the 5 elements devil subduing seal, I'll be more confident in dealing with 4th-rank demonic beasts. Take advantage of this year's time to make some more preparations. Zhou Wan nodded, then reacted. Who let you in? Go to the front yard and refine. Wang Daoyuan ran to the front yard dejectedly, preparing to refine the vermilion bird fan. Tu Yuming helped with the processing of the materials. He was also a 3rd-rank mid-grade artificer, so this wasn't a problem. The 5 life-bound tail feathers were of different lengths, so they also needed to be adjusted. The red-feathered crow's life-bound tail feather was the most important. As the centermost feather, it didn't need to be processed and was only 1 foot and 5 inches long. The wood and earth element feathers were adjusted to a length of 1 foot and 2 inches. The metal and water feathers were placed at the edge and adjusted to 1 foot long. To a 3rd-rank artificer, changing the size of the materials by extracting and adding spiritual power wasn't a big deal. After processing the tail feathers, Tu Yuming cut down the largest blood-fire hibiscus and used the trunk to make a 6-inch fan handle. Wang Daoyuan took the processed materials out of the space in the spirit pearl and used some fire element supplementary materials to fuse the tail feathers and fan handle into one. After tempering it with fire, it took shape. Having refined 3 life-bound magic tools, he was already very proficient in using spiritual power to condense tool patterns. Even though Mount Vermilion Bird's tool patterns were more complicated than the previous 3, he still only used half a year to refine it. Then he drew out flames from the 5 spiritual power seeds and nurtured the 5 fan feathers. After refining the spiritual fire, nurturing the life-bound magic tools became easier. Putting the life-bound magic tools into the dantian and placing them near the corresponding spiritual power seeds, they would be able to absorb spiritual power on their own. Of course, to upgrade their grade they still needed the help of spiritual power. Wang Daoyuan tried to fuse the 4 life-bound magic tools into the 5 elements demon suppression seal. Its power had already surpassed the purple lightning demon slaying token by a lot. It wasn't difficult to severely injure an early-stage golden core cultivator in one move. He secretly ran to the backyard and came to the door of his room. Just as he was about to enter, the scarlet phoenix flowing flame sword flew out. Wang Daoyuan dodged the flying sword and said with a smile, "Hall Master, I'm here to report that the Vermilion Bird fan has been refined. We can set off for the Snow Dragon volcano." Zhou Xian had also finished packing. She wore 2 yin and yang rings and wore a red dress. She wore the spirit-binding silk cloak that Wang Daoyuan gave her. The 2 left Guiyan Market from different directions and met up 1,000 miles north of Guiyan Market. Guiyan Market was more than 100,000 miles away from Snow Dragon volcano. At such a long distance, flying on a sword was enough to exhaust spiritual power several times. Wang Daoyuan's wind-fire flying kite was too eye-catching and wasn't suitable to take it out. Zhou Xian took out a fiery red flying boat. It was called the Scarlet Phoenix Flying Boat. The Scarlet Phoenix Flying Boat was more than 3 feet long and 8 feet wide. It could fly more than 7,000 miles in 2 hours. The 2 rode the flying boat and headed north. They passed by the Mirror Treasure Lake Oasis. There were many Foundation establishment cultivators here. It had been almost 100 years since the last time they explored the Yellow Springs secret realm and lost a lot of people. The group of people who escaped back then was probably mostly dead. The people who came later didn't know how powerful this place was and continued to cultivate here. After passing the Mirror Treasure Lake Oasis, there was a desert in front of them. Occasionally, there were some small oases that were occupied by half-demon tribes and demons. The 2 of them were just passing by. The half-demons and demons wouldn't come out to cause trouble. They walked and stopped along the way to enjoy the scenery. It took them 5 to 6 days to reach Snow Dragon volcano. Snow Dragon volcano wasn't small. The volcano was cone-shaped and had a diameter of almost 100 miles. The volcano hadn't erupted for many years, so the fire spiritual power that was released wasn't much. Therefore snow could be used outside the mountain. The flying boat stopped in the sky 100 miles south of the volcano. Zhou Xian pointed at the volcano's mouth and said, "The fire spiritual power in this volcano is restrained. There isn't much spiritual power outside. If I want to form my core, I have to go inside the volcano. However, there is a group of poisonous lava fire scorpions inside. These guys can grow to the 3rd rank upper grade at most. They live in the volcano all year round and have strong resistance to fire magic. With my methods, it will take a lot of effort to kill a group of poisonous lava fire scorpions. I'm afraid it will take a few months. If the commotion is too big, it might even alert a 4th rank demon beast. You have all 5 elements and have more methods. I'll leave it to you." Wang Daoyuan's Gui Water Death Flame could directly attack the soul. It couldn't be easier to deal with spiritual insects. However, in the volcano's mouth, the Gui Water Death Flame couldn't be used. He could try using the soul-bearing bell. If it didn't work, he could release the returning Dust Flame and Scarlet Yang True Fire. No matter what scorpions they were, they would be burned to death. He patted his chest and said, "Hall Master, don't worry. This small matter can't stop me. Please rest for a moment and watch me deal with these bugs." Chapter 498. Wang Daoyuan flew to the volcano on his sword and came to the top of the crater. The crater was only 100 feet in diameter, and the lower he went, the bigger the space. Waves of heat gushed out from the crater. After all, it was a level 4 mid-grade lava lake. Even in a stable situation, it couldn't be underestimated. The lava lake was only 30,000 feet from the crater, and the Snow Dragon volcano was 20,000 feet high. The lava lake here was 10,000 feet below the ground. Using his divine sense, he probed the walls of the crater. Just near the crater, there were a large number of poisonous lava fire scorpions. However, these guys were of low grades, only second grade mid-grade. They seemed to be underage scorpions. The lower he went, the higher the grades of the poisonous lava fire scorpions. Near the lava, there were more than 10 third-grade upper-grade poisonous lava fire scorpions. These guys weren't very big, only 5 or 6 feet long. However, the size of a third-grade spiritual insect couldn't be judged by its appearance. There were too many demonic beasts and spiritual insects that could change their size. Wang Daoyuan didn't plan to subdue the scorpions. They didn't have a queen like bees, and he could control a group of them by controlling the queen. Since he couldn't subdue them, he couldn't leave any of them alive for Zhou Wan's safety. Scorpions were very sensitive. It was impossible to sneak up on a third-grade upper-grade poisonous lava fire scorpion. As soon as he entered the crater, he was discovered. He took out the Azure Dragon Pearl, and a 20-meter-long Azure Dragon Phantom flew out. The life force of the poisonous lava fire scorpions within 100 feet of the pearl was instantly sucked dry. These guys were of too low grades and had no resistance to the Azure Dragon Pearl. Seeing that their companions were killed, the third-grade poisonous lava fire scorpions below attacked Wang Daoyuan. They used their tails to shoot out flame needles with a trace of black gas, which were obviously poisonous. Wang Daoyuan didn't take these spells head-on. He flew out of the crater on his sword to avoid the spells. Zhou Wan needed to form her core in the crater, so she needed to stay here for a few months. He couldn't cause too much of a commotion to avoid attracting demonic beasts. He needed to get rid of these poisonous lava fire scorpions as soon as possible. He transformed the earth and fire attribute spiritual energy in his body into dust, returning flame and true sun fire. Casting the meteor fall technique, the flaming meteors smashed into the volcanic crater one after another. After many improvements, the meteor fall technique was extremely powerful. These scorpions weren't stupid. They didn't dare to take the meteorites head-on. Wang Daoyuan's goal was not to kill these scorpions, but to ignite the magma lake below. The meteorite was made up of flames, and it instantly ignited the lava. He took out the vermilion bird fan and gently fanned it a few times. The earthy yellow and scarlet gold flames formed a fire tornado in the crater of the volcano. Wherever the fire whirlwind touched, no life could survive. Even the rocks were incinerated. Those rank 3 venomous lava fire scorpions used their innate spells to attack the fire whirlwind, but the effect was minimal. Soon, all of the venom fire scorpions were dealt with by the fire whirlwind. The poison fire scorpion was unwilling to just sit there and wait for its death. It did its best to escape towards the mouth of the volcano. Wang Daoyuan had been waiting for them to come. He activated the Azure Dragon Pearl again, and every venom fire scorpion that came out died. After a quarter of an hour, there was not a single living thing left in the crater. The life force stored in the Azure Dragon Pearl was also full. However, he didn't let the Azure Dragon Pearl refine the life force. Zhou Wan would definitely be injured after the tribulation. The life force would be left for her to heal. The dead venomous lava fire scorpions were all burned to ashes. Although it was Wang Daoyuan who came looking for trouble, he didn't feel guilty. The fight for survival between the alien species was a life and death struggle. In every beast tide, tens of thousands of humans died at the hands of the alien species. Killing one more demon beast meant that dozens, hundreds, or even more people would die in a beast tide in the future. After cleaning up the crater of the volcano, he took back the rootless fire. The Crimson Yang True Fire remained in the magma. It could burn the magma and produce a large amount of fire spirit chi, which would be of great help to Zhou Wan's core formation. Zhou Wan came to the crater of the volcano and smiled. I really underestimated you. I didn't expect you to finish off a nest of venomous lava fire scorpions so quickly. Wang Daoyuan raised his head and said proudly, of course. In the future, you'll realize that you underestimated me in many ways. Zhou Wan steered the flying boat and landed by the lava lake below. She found a clean place and sat down cross-legged. Wang Daoyuan didn't think of setting up an array formation to resist the thunder tribulation. Unlike dermic weapons, array formations couldn't resist the thunder tribulation. That was because the spirit chi in the array formation didn't come from the person undergoing the tribulation. Therefore, the thunder tribulation would see it as an external object and strengthen it. To weaken the thunder tribulation, one could choose a place with special terrain. For example, if one underwent the tribulation in the crater of the volcano, the water and metal element thunder tribulations would be weakened by the magma. Such a naturally formed terrain was also a manifestation of the laws and wouldn't cause the thunder tribulation to strengthen. Zhou Xian condensed her golden core in the crater of the volcano while Wang Daoyuan stood guard around her. If any demonic beasts approached, they would kill them without exception. After staying here for half a year, there was finally some movement in the crater of the volcano. A strong wave of spirit qi was emitted from the crater of the volcano. Soon after, a crimson ball with a diameter of 7 inches appeared and slowly descended. This was the golden core. Once the golden core fell, the thunder tribulation would soon descend. Dark clouds began to appear in the sky and there was a pressure that covered an area of 15 kilometers. Wang Daoyuan immediately cut off his connection with the rootless fire in the lava lake to avoid being recognized as an external interference by the heavenly tribulation. Then he retreated 15 kilometers away from the crater of the volcano. More and more dark clouds gathered in the sky and finally formed a cluster of dark clouds with a diameter of 15 kilometers. The center of the cluster of dark clouds was facing the crater of the volcano. Soon, a bluish-white thunderbolt as thick as a child's arm descended from the sky. The thunder tribulation had officially descended. The power of the first thunder tribulation was very weak. Even a peak Sifu realm cultivator could easily withstand it. Zhou Xian took out a 4th-tier low-grade fiery red shield and directly blocked the first thunder tribulation. 10 breaths later, the second bluish-white thunderbolt descended from the sky. This thunderbolt was already as thick as an adult's arm. However, Zhou Xian's shield was strong enough and the second thunder tribulation did not cause much damage to it. Another 10 breaths later, the third bluish-white thunderbolt descended. This thunderbolt was as thick as a water bucket. Zhou Xian's shield still managed to withstand this thunderbolt. However, the light of the shield was somewhat dim. The 9 golden core heavenly tribulations were divided into 3 groups. After each group of thunder tribulation, there would be a 15-minute interval. The person undergoing the tribulation could use this time to recover from their injuries. After 15 minutes, the 4th thunder tribulation descended. This thunderbolt was already golden in color and its thickness was the same as the first thunder tribulation. After Zhou Xian's shield received this thunderbolt, a huge crack appeared on it. Soon the 5th thunder tribulation descended. The shield was directly shattered, and part of the thunderbolt struck Zhou Xian's body. However, she had a special constitution after all and only suffered minor injuries. She took out a 4th-tier low-grade mirror. The 6th thunder tribulation descended. The mirror was shattered and the power of the thunderbolt was exhausted. Zhou Xian took out a healing pill and consumed it to recover from her injuries. 15 minutes later, the purple thunderbolt descended. Zhou Xian took out a 4th-tier low-grade magic weapon to block it. After the thunder tribulation destroyed the magic weapon, it also caused some injuries to her. After the 8th thunder tribulation destroyed the magic weapon, about 30% of its power fell on Zhou Xian's body. She was seriously injured and spat out a mouthful of blood. When the 9th thunder tribulation descended, Zhou Xian took out her magic weapon and condensed the phantom of a scarlet wand to resist it together. After the magic weapon was destroyed, the phantom of the scarlet wand dissipated. However, more than half of the spiritual power fell on Zhou Xian's body. This time, the spiritual power in her body fluctuated between strong and weak. After spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, blood kept seeping out from the corners of her mouth. After the 9th golden core heavenly tribulation, the 5 magic weapons that Zhou Xian prepared were all destroyed and she was seriously injured. She immediately took a healing pill and drank a jar of 100-year spiritual peach dew. After recovering her injuries and spiritual power, she prepared to deal with the minor divine power tribulation. For her, the thunder tribulation was just an appetizer. The last minor divine power tribulation was the main course. This tribulation could not be resisted with ordinary magic weapons. She could only rely on her natal magic weapon and minor divine power to resist it. Chapter 499. The heavenly tribulation was about to end and the demonic beasts that wanted to take advantage of her should be ready. He could not help with the tribulation transcendence and could only try his best to deal with these demonic beasts. Fortunately, the elixirs that Zhou Xian prepared were good. After 15 minutes, most of her injuries were healed. The tribulation cloud emitted the pressure of a divine beast. A moment later, a scarlet Wuan divine bird with a wingspan of more than 100 feet dived down towards Zhou Xian with a large sea of fire. Zhou Xian also took out her natal dermic artifact. A scarlet Wuan phantom with a sea of fire went up to meet it. At this moment, the scarlet Wuan phantom was the original form of the dermic artifact and carried the power of a natal dermic artifact. After 9 golden core heavenly tribulations, Zhou Xian was already a true golden core cultivator. This scarlet Wuan phantom also carried the power of a minor divine ability. The 2 scarlet Wuans met and spat out scarlet flames. These flames were not condensed with ordinary fire tribute spirit energy. They seemed to contain a trace of spirit fire. The minor divine ability tribulation was exactly the same as the minor divine ability that a tribulation transcendence cultivator comprehended. It seemed that Zhou Xian's minor divine ability should be the legendary Scarlet Wuan divine fire. In the future, with this minor divine ability, there was hope that she could condense spirit fire. The 2 scarlet Wuans were entangled in the air. Zhou Xian's dermic artifact was obviously weaker. The heavenly tribulation's scarlet Wuan was obviously stronger and suppressed the dermic artifact. Zhou Xian injected all her spirit energy into the dermic artifact and drank a few mouthfuls of wine to replenish her spirit energy. At this moment, a purple light flickered between her eyebrows and there were even phoenix cries. She had even used her purple mansion resonance. When a cultivator underwent the tribulation transcendence, even if their quintessential essence and blood were exhausted, as long as they still had a breath of life, the gift of heaven and earth after the heavenly tribulation could completely restore them. However, the power of this minor divine ability tribulation was not weak. Zhou Xian tried her best but still could not resist it. The heavenly tribulation's scarlet Wuan pressed the dermic artifact into the mouth of the volcano. Zhou Xian used her quintessential essence and blood to resist, but it only slowed down the heavenly tribulation's scarlet Wuan's descent. After half a cup of tea's time, Zhou Xian's magical item's original form collapsed, and the heavenly tribulation red Wuan pounced on her. Sensing the collapse of a scarlet Wuan phantom, Wang Daoyuan subconsciously wanted to rescue it. Just as he was about to enter the range of 15 kilometers, a bolt of blue-white lightning fell from the sky and struck less than a foot in front of him. This was a warning from the heavenly tribulation. He calmed down and stopped moving forward. In the crater of the volcano, Zhou Xian raised a spiritual energy shield to resist the flames of the heavenly tribulation's scarlet Wuan. Her spiritual energy barrier was quickly burned through by the flames, and the flames burned her body. She was also very ambitious. At the same time, she continued to refine the tribulation divine flames. 15 minutes later, the divine flames of the heavenly tribulation were gradually extinguished. The pressure of the tribulation clouds also disappeared, and the dark clouds in the sky turned into golden auspicious clouds. The golden core heavenly tribulation was considered to have passed. If he had failed to transcend the tribulation clouds would have dispersed. Looking at the auspicious clouds in the sky, Zhou Xian had succeeded. Wang Daoyuan immediately rushed to the mouth of the volcano. Zhou Xian, who was in front of him, was almost burnt to a crisp. However, there was still a weak vitality in the charred remains. Wang Daoyuan took out the azure dragon pearl and activated it with all his strength. Rays of emerald green light shone on Zhou Xian. The vitality in Zhou Xian's body rapidly increased, but her injuries were too serious. It was impossible for her to completely recover with the power of the azure dragon pearl alone. Soon, golden raindrops fell from the sky and poured into the crater of the volcano. Most of the raindrops fell on Zhou Xian's body. Receiving the nourishment of the gifts of heaven and earth, Zhou Xian's condition quickly improved. Her originally charred body quickly recovered. A heavenly tribulation made her already thin clothes even worse. As a gentleman, Wang Daoyuan would definitely not look at indecent things. After a dozen breaths, he felt that his qi and blood were a little unstable and his nose was a little hot. After body refinement, his physical body had become stronger, but the impact of his qi and blood had also become stronger. He took out a forbidden spirit silk cloak and covered Zhou Xian. Then he left the crater of the volcano. The gifts of heaven and earth were fatally attractive to all living creatures. There would definitely be shameless demonic beasts who wanted to take advantage of the situation. Wang Daoyuan also received some gifts from heaven and earth. He felt refreshed and his spiritual power was purer. Even his soul and body had some improvements. In the future, if he encountered an enemy in the core formation realm, he could rob them. After half a cup of tea's time, a sound similar to a phoenix's cry came from the north. It was just that the sound was really unpleasant, as if a phoenix had swallowed a gravel in its throat. It gave off an extremely fierce feeling. It seemed that the visitor was not friendly. Not long after, a fourth-rank low-grade bird that looked like a phoenix but had no tail feathers appeared 100 miles away. It was a white and black low-grade bird with a hint of black. From 100 miles away, Wang Daoyuan could already feel the pressure. The strange bird spoke in human language. The person transcending the tribulation is also a beauty with the phoenix bloodline. She can be my princess. Upon hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was displeased. A mongrel chicken dared to steal his woman. Even if he was a man, he wouldn't tolerate it. He opened his mouth and cursed, "Where did this mongrel chicken come from? Get out of my way." The strange bird was also furious. It had the phoenix bloodline, but it was too thin and couldn't grow a crown or long feathers. It looked a bit like a pheasant. He usually liked to hear other demonic beasts call it a phoenix. Now that it was being scolded by a Zifu Realm Jr., how could it not be angry? It transformed into a young man wearing a black and white robe. There were no traces of a demonic beast on him. His transformation was quite successful. It rushed towards Wang Daoyuan and said angrily, "Where did this wild brat come from? How dare you look down on the Phoenix clan?" Wang Daoyuan transformed his spiritual power into spiritual fire and took out the vermilion bird fan. He said disdainfully, "Your tail isn't even as long as an old hen. How dare you call yourself a phoenix? Shameless." The strange bird waved its hand and shot out a few ice swords, which went straight for Wang Daoyuan. It seemed casual, but it was comparable to an attack from an early-stage golden core cultivator. It would be very difficult for an ordinary cultivator at the peak of the Zifu realm to receive it. However, Wang Daoyuan had the spiritual fire, so it was easy for him to deal with the ice attribute magic. The scarlet yang true fire was still burning in the lava lake below the volcano. He waved the vermilion bird fan and the golden flames in the lava lake rushed out and wrapped around the ice swords. Even if it was an attack from a fourth-stage demonic beast, it wouldn't be able to withstand the might of the spiritual fire. Moreover, the spiritual fire was backed by a fourth-stage mid-grade fire spiritual vein. The ice swords quickly melted. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Bald chicken, listen to my advice and get out of here. Otherwise, I'll make you into a roasted chicken." A fourth-stage low-grade roasted chicken is also a delicacy. The strange bird was unable to restrain its anger and continuously shot out ice attribute magic. However, a sea of fire with a radius of more than 15 kilometers had already appeared between Wang Daoyuan and it. The sea of fire was controlled by the vermilion bird fan, so the pressure on Wang Daoyuan's spirit wasn't too great. Even if he couldn't control it, it would only damage the vermilion bird fan. His spirit wouldn't be affected. With the lava of the volcano as its backing, the sea of fire was still expanding. The fire attribute countered the ice attribute to begin with. Against the endless spiritual fire, unless one's strength was absolutely overwhelming. Otherwise, any ice attribute magic would be useless. The strange bird transformed into its original form, a gigantic bird with a wingspan of more than 3,000 feet. It was covered in thick ice armor and wanted to forcefully fly through the sea of fire. Wang Daoyuan summoned all 4 of his destiny dermic weapons and even condensed the phantom of the Kirin seal. The strange bird could tell that his dermic weapons were extraordinary and immediately retreated from the sea of fire. It circled around the edge of the sea of fire, trying to go around it and enter the volcano. Wang Daoyuan used the sea of fire to envelop the entire volcano. The strange bird wouldn't be able to come down until all its feathers were burned off. On the other hand, the golden raindrops weren't affected by the flames at all. They passed through the sea of fire without any damage. This strange bird was also a coward. After being in a stalemate for a quarter of an hour, it still didn't dare to charge into the sea of fire. The gift of heaven and earth was still continuing, and Zhou Wan's aura was also getting stronger. At this time, bird chirps and beast roars came from the north and east. Wang Daoyuan's heart sank. They were going to be surrounded by fourth-stage demonic beast. At this time, Zhou Wan hadn't woken up. It was impossible to escape with Zhou Wan. With his speed, There was no way he could escape the pursuit of the fourth stage strange bird. Besides, the gift of heaven and earth hadn't ended yet. He didn't dare to rashly take Zhou Xian away. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if the damage caused by the heavenly tribulation wasn't completely healed. He could only stay here and wait for her to wake up before letting her take him away. Chapter 500. At this moment, the golden clouds above the snow dragon volcano began to weaken rapidly. Wang Daoyuan suddenly heard Zhou Xian's voice. "Lure it in, let's kill this mixed feathered bald-tail chicken." Even though the demon race had reached the fourth rank, their consciousness was still far inferior to that of humans. The strange bird did not notice the two's divine consciousness transmissions. The demon beasts and demon birds in the distance were about to arrive. There was not much time to set up a trap. He had to kill this guy as soon as possible and escape immediately. If he escaped now, he would be entangled by this strange bird. Wang Daoyuan pretended to be exhausted and put away all the magic artifacts except the vermilion bird fan. The entire sea of fire was also somewhat out of control. The strange bird looked at the golden clouds that were getting thinner and was also somewhat anxious. When the golden clouds dissipated and the person undergoing the tribulation recovered, it was not confident that it could deal with a golden core cultivator. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan was somewhat exhausted, it became excited. A peak Sifu cultivator controlling 4 magic artifacts at the same time, and controlling such a large sea of fire, he should have been unable to hold on long ago. It wrapped itself in ice armor and charged into the sea of fire, attacking Wang Daoyuan. When the strange bird was about a mile away from Wang Daoyuan, Zhou Xian's body was wrapped in flames and transformed into a scarlet Yuan divine bird, soaring into the sky. The pressure of a divine beast swept out. The strange bird only had a little bit of the phoenix bloodline. How could it face the scarlet Yuan? It immediately changed direction and fled to the side. The vermilion bird fan in Wang Daoyuan's hand shone brightly, and the flames of the entire sea of fire surged towards the strange bird. The scarlet Yuan that Zhou Xian transformed into also had some ability to control flames. The golden sea of fire was brought up by her waves of flames, chasing after the strange bird. The strange bird knew that it was no match for her, and a burst of blood qi and vital essence appeared on its body, followed by a burst of speed. This was a secret escape technique that consumed vital essence and blood qi. Although Zhou Xian transformed into a scarlet Yuan, she was still a human cultivator. In terms of escaping, she could not compare to the strange bird and was quickly left behind. She withdrew the flames on her body and summoned her scarlet Yuan flowing flame sword, slashing towards the strange bird. The flying sword was extremely fast. Carrying a large amount of golden flames, it slashed at the back of the strange bird. This strange bird was worthy of having the bloodline of the phoenix. Its physical body was not weak. The sword only left a deep wound on its back. The golden clouds formed by the tribulation clouds had yet to dissipate, and golden rain continued to fall. However, the figures of demonic beasts had already appeared in the north and east. The two of them did not dare to stay any longer. Zhou Xian withdrew her natal dermic artifact and an auspicious cloud appeared beneath her feet. She carried Wang Daoyuan and fled towards the southwest. Wang Daoyuan continued to wave his vermilion bird fan to extract spiritual energy from the crimson golden flames in the sky. After absorbing the spiritual energy into his body, he continuously sent it into the space of the spiritual pearl. Unfortunately, there were simply too many flames. He had only absorbed a small portion of it, and the auspicious cloud under his feet had already flown 100 miles away. Without his control, the remaining flames began to quickly extinguish. On the other hand, the flames in the lava lake below the volcano could still burn for a while if they were not disturbed. Wang Daoyuan looked behind him. 5 huge demonic beasts flew above the volcano. They did not chase after the two of them. Instead, they were fighting over the remaining golden raindrops. Soon, some demonic beasts also flew over on their clouds and fought with the demonic beasts. Wang Daoyuan heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at Zhou Xian's few remaining clothes, he coughed lightly and said, "Hall Master, you should wear some clothes." Previously, when she transformed into the scarlet Yuan, her body was burning with raging flames. After all, the soul-forbidding silk was only a second-tier material. How could it withstand the flames of a small divine ability? It had already turned into nothingness. The clothes on Zhou Wan's body were the remnants of the lightning tribulation. Zhou Wan smiled lightly. Didn't you even think about what the child would be called? Why are you embarrassed now? After she formed her core, a faint red flame mark appeared between her eyebrows. Her skin was faintly shining. The Scarlet Wan's charm had not been completely restrained. Coupled with this smile, it was even more charming. Her clothes were still untidy. Wang Daoyuan's blood was boiling. He only felt his nose heat up. He hurriedly cast a rejuvenation technique on his nose, took out a cloak and put it on Zhou Wan. I'm a gentleman. Naturally I won't peek. I'm afraid of being seen by despicable people. Zhou Wan mocked. A gentleman won't peek. But you're a lecher. As a body refinement cultivator you can still have a nosebleed. That's all you've got. Wang Daoyuan was about to argue when an earth-shattering sound came from behind. The two of them looked back and saw the volcano behind them spewing out a large amount of lava. The lava also contained the corpses of several fourth-tier demonic beasts. He reckoned that these few demonic beasts were really angry and fought their way into the mouth of the volcano. The lava lake below the volcano had been burned by Wang Daoyuan with spiritual fire for half a year. This time, dealing with the strange bird had used up a large amount of spiritual power. It had become unstable. How could it withstand the battle of a group of fourth-tier demonic beasts? The volcano's body collapsed and the earth was shaking. Cracks spread out in all directions from the volcano. Lava also gushed out of the cracks. The demonic beasts nearby panicked and fled desperately. With such a huge commotion, it was very likely to trigger a huge beast tide. This place was still very far away from the Huiyan mountain range. The beast tide might not affect the Guiyan market. However, the relationship between the demons and half-demons in the north of the mountain was very subtle. This beast tide might cause a full-scale conflict between the demons and half-demons. The two of them did not care about these things for the time being. After flying for more than 2,000 miles, Zhou Wan put away the auspicious cloud and took out the Scarlet Wan flying boat. After all, it was too ostentatious to ride on an auspicious cloud. With the volcano erupting in the north, they did not have the leisure to sightsee. Driving the flying boat, they headed straight for the Guiyan market. The two of them returned to the Guiyan market as if nothing had happened and entered the underground division. Near the extreme cold ice plains, the demonic beasts fighting caused the volcano to erupt. What did it have to do with the two of them? Returning to Zhou Wan's cave residence, Wang Daoyuan continued to stay in the front yard of the cave residence, recalling the power of the heavenly tribulation. Especially the last minor divine ability tribulation which contained the law of fire. He was a cultivator of the 5 elements and needed to comprehend the law of the 5 elements. If he could comprehend the law of fire, the other 4 laws would be a matter of course. Zhou Wan returned to the backyard and freshened up. Then she walked out wearing thrifty clothes with her hair tied up in a high ponytail. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly fawned over her. Lord Hallmaster, this subordinate would like to ask about the law of fire. What do you think? Zhou Wan said with a smile, of course no problem. Come to my boudoir and we can discuss it slowly. Wang Daoyuan sternly refused. I'm a gentleman, how can I casually enter your boudoir? I think this place is quite good. We can discuss it here. Zhou Wan said mockingly, didn't you say you wanted to come to my boudoir to protect me? I have no objections now. Do you dare to come? Of course Wang Daoyuan did not dare. Before Zhou Wan formed her core, she needed to keep her primordial yin to increase the success rate of forming her core. It was fine to tease her. Now that she had formed her core, losing her primordial yin was not a big deal. But he was still in the core formation stage, so he had to endure it. There was no other way. Now his offense and defense had changed. Not only did he not dare to tease Zhou Wan, but he also had to face Zhou Wan's teasing. Moreover, Zhou Wan had awakened a minor divine ability and her strength had increased greatly. She was far from being comparable to ordinary early-stage golden core cultivators. This bit of ability of his was simply not enough. There was no other way. In order to comprehend the law of fire, he could only compromise. After saying all kinds of nice things, Zhou Wan used her minor divine ability and condensed a small flame. She handed the flame to Wang Daoyuan and teased, Lord Vice Hallmaster, the flame condensed by this divine ability is very dangerous. Do you want me to protect you? Sure enough, sooner or later you would have to pay for what you did. Just like how he teased Zhou Xian in the past, now he was being teased in the same way. Wang Daoyuan took the flame, took out a few jars of spiritual peach dew and answered obediently, Lord Hall Master is very busy, but you still took time out of your busy schedule to help me comprehend the law of fire. I'm very grateful. Please accept these jars of wine as a token of my respect. Chapter 501. Zhou Xian took the wine jar with satisfaction and smiled, You know your place. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to come to my room and ask me. I will answer with all my heart. Although Wang Daoyuan did not want to go over even if he was beaten to death, he still said that he would do it. Now that he was being suppressed by Zhou Xian, he had no choice but to lower his head. Zhou Xian carried the wine jar and arrogantly returned to the backyard. Wang Daoyuan continued to inject wood attribute spirit energy into the flame. His fire attribute spirit energy had the characteristics of the Scarlet Sun True Fire. If he used fire attribute spirit energy, the rootless flame would quickly be assimilated. Among the 5 elements wood gave birth to fire. Using wood attribute spirit energy could also maintain the fire attribute spirit energy. Although it would not burn too vigorously, it would not change the characteristics of the rootless flame. He used his divine sense to probe the flame and carefully felt the fire laws. His own Scarlet Sun True Fire was a 3rd-level upper-grade spirit fire. The fire laws were not obvious and the difficulty of comprehending them was higher. This flame was condensed from Zhou Xian's small divine ability. It was considered a 4th-level lower-grade rootless flame. The fire laws were more obvious and the effect of comprehending them was better. He compared the rootless flame with the Scarlet Sun True Fire. In just half a year he had a preliminary feeling of the fire laws. Fire was the most destructive and violent attribute among the 5 elements. Fire elemental spells all followed the same principle, which emphasized the instantaneous eruption of a huge amount of power. Of course, this was only the simplest comprehension. Core formation only required these simple comprehensions. Starting from the Jindan stage, the path of cultivation could not be separated from the comprehension of the laws. As one's cultivation increased, the requirement for comprehension would also be higher. The Jindan stage only had comprehension of the laws and used it as a basis to modify techniques. At a higher level one had to directly use the power of the laws. Everything was difficult at the beginning. After comprehending the fire laws, it would be much easier to comprehend other laws. He wanted to continue comprehending, but Jiang Jingming sent him a message saying that there was an important matter that he needed him to do personally. He could not reject it. After all, he had the position of Guiyan City Square's guardian. Before core formation he still had to be a monk ringing the bell. If he were to neglect his duties he would definitely be punished. After bidding farewell to Zhou Xian, he left the underground branch, took a big detour and returned to the underworld sex station. After entering the encampment, Jiang Jingming immediately took out a beast skin book and said, Steward Wang, this is the account book of all the matters I've dealt with over the years. Please take a look. Wang Daoyuan took the account book and flipped through it briefly. He then checked the treasury and found no problems. He nodded and said, Elder Jiang is indeed a capable person. These few years when handling the branch's affairs, there were no oversights. Is there anything important that requires me to deal with personally? Jiang Jingming replied, Have you heard of the major event that happened to the south of the Arctic icy plains? Wang Daoyuan was naturally well aware of this, but he would never admit it verbally. With a puzzled expression he asked, What happened to the south of the Arctic icy plains? I've been cultivating in Huiyan Mountain all this time so I didn't care about anything else. Jiang Jingming continued, About half a year ago the Snow Dragon volcano 20,000 miles to the south of the Arctic icy plains erupted, and caused a violent earthquake. All the demons within 10,000 miles were affected, and a large beast tide was triggered. These few years the demons and half-demons were at odds with each other, and the beast tide destroyed many half-demon tribes. This made the situation even more tense. At first they were fighting in secret but now they've started to act. Furthermore, the Jindan half-demons and 4th-rank demons are more restrained, so there hasn't been an all-out conflict yet. However, if this continues an all-out war is unavoidable. Now both sides want to rope in the underworld sect. This time they want to meet with you and ask about your attitude. The time is 3 days later, and the location is at the Huiyan Pavilion in the center of the market. Wang Daoyuan nodded and didn't say anything, but his heart wasn't calm. The situation he was most worried about had happened. Once the two sides clashed, he would be cannon fodder. 3 days later, Wang Daoyuan brought Jiang Jingming and a foreign Zifu elder to the Huiyan Pavilion in the center of the market. The location of the meeting was on the 3rd floor of the Huiyan Pavilion. Wang Daoyuan led the 2 Violet Mansion elders to the 3rd floor and entered the main hall. A silver-haired Violet Palace Realm half-demon sat on the main seat with 2 early-stage Violet Palace Realm half-demons beside him. On the right was a peak Violet Palace Realm half-demon with black hair and red eyes. There were also 2 early-stage Violet Palace Realm half-demons beside him. The Huiyan Pavilion was the property of the Silver Fox tribe, so the one sitting on the main seat should be someone from the Silver Fox tribe. Wang Daoyuan brought the 2 to the left and sat down. Then he cupped his hands and said, "May I know why the 2 of you have invited me here?" The silver-haired half-demon smiled. "I'm the Silver Fox tribe's Grand Elder. Who you?" "I'm the representative of the half-demons." He then pointed at the red-eyed half-demon and said, "This is Dao Yipsongyun. He's the representative of the demon race." For a Violet Palace realm meeting like this, the demon race would send their subordinate half-demons. After all, 3rd-rank demons couldn't take human form and couldn't speak the human language, so they couldn't discuss matters. As for 4th-rank demons, their status wasn't on the same level. Therefore they sent their subordinate half-demons. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I'm Wang Daoyuan, the guardian of the Huiyan Pavilion." "Greetings, Daoyu. Fellow Taoists, what do you want to discuss with me? Let's get straight to the point." Huyu smiled. "Daoyu is indeed a straightforward person, so I'll be direct. The eruption of the Snow Dragon volcano caused the demon beasts to flee, and we half-demons suffered heavy losses. Since the demon race attacked first, we naturally can't just sit and wait for our deaths. Now that the conflict between the demon race and half-demons is inevitable, I wonder what the underworld sect's stance is?" Wang Daoyuan chuckled. "What does the matter between you half-demons and the demon race have to do with my underworld sect? My underworld sect only has a few shops in the southern part of the Huiyan Pavilion. Apart from that, we don't have any other property. We're just doing business here. If the 2 of you want to fight, why should we take sides?" Songyun finally spoke. It's said that the eruption of the Snow Dragon volcano was caused by a human undergoing the Golden Core heavenly tribulation there. Since the culprit is the human race, don't think you can get away with it. Wang Daoyuan mocked him. "Songyun, what does Daoyu think my underworld sect is? The highest commander of the human race. My underworld sect only occupies 1/3 of Shao, which is just a drop in the ocean compared to the entire Beiyuan Zhou Xian. How can we have the power to control all the human race's affairs? You also admitted that the human race caused the eruption of the Snow Dragon volcano, but that's just hearsay. There's no real evidence. Daoyu wants to force my underworld sect to take sides with such baseless words. Isn't that too overbearing?" Huyu also asked. "Daoyu means that the underworld sect doesn't care about the conflict between the half-demons and the demon race?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "My underworld sect's attitude towards the north of the mountain has always been to do business and not get involved in the affairs of the north. Naturally, we don't want the 2 of you to fall out, which will affect our business. If you insist on fighting, we won't get involved. We'll just switch to another person to do business with." Songyun didn't give up and asked aggressively, "This eruption was caused by the human race. The demon race also suffered heavy losses. Daoyu wants to get away with it? You underestimate us too much." Wang Daoyuan also gave tit for tat. "The matter of the rogue cultivators has nothing to do with my underworld sect. However, the Snow God Palace in the northwest is one of the 4 top forces of the human race and can represent all the human race. If you have any opinions, you can go to the Snow God Palace and ask for an explanation." Songyun had nothing to say. They didn't dare to provoke the Snow God Palace. After all, those people were good at suppressing aquatic demons. If the demon race dared to go there, they would be killed. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan didn't want to get involved, Huyu was a little disappointed. "I wonder if the underworld sect can continue to do business with us half-demons." Chapter 502. Wang Daoyuan thought for a moment and replied, "There's no problem with doing business. Our underworld sect is here to do business. It's just what can be sold and what can't. As a guardian, I can't make the decision and have to ask the sect master. I'll send a message to the sect master and report this matter. The sect master and the elders need time to discuss this matter. When they send a message, I'll inform your two families. How about it? Yu nodded, expressing that she had no objections. On the other hand, Song Yun wanted to say something, but Wang Daoyuan completely ignored him. This guy was a subordinate half-demon of the demon race. After staying with a group of demon beasts for a long time, his brain was not clear. When the two sides were looking for help, he still dared to be arrogant. Did he really think that the demon race was stronger than the human race? In ancient times, the human race was a strong race that could compare to the divine beasts. These mixed demon beasts were nothing. It was only after the formation of heaven-ending abyss that cultivation realms were limited. The human race did not live as long as the demon race, which was why they had the advantage. Wang Daoyuan was leaning towards helping the half-demons. After all, half-demons could marry humans. As long as the human race had the advantage in numbers, they could quickly assimilate the half-demons. Forget about the demon race. Only demon race level 4 and above could marry humans and give birth to half-demons. The human race could not assimilate the demon race. It was better to suppress them as much as possible. If the half-demons and demon race fought, as long as it did not implicate Xianan, it did not matter. He brought the two Zifu realm cultivators and left returning to the underworld sect. Then he sent a message to Luo Juyo reporting the situation here. The next day Luo Juyo replied. His attitude was similar to Wang Daoyuan's, pulling the line between the half-demons and the demon race. To the half-demons, all resources were sold. To the demon race, just selling some things was enough. Wang Daoyuan gave the two families the same conditions, only selling basic talismans and pills. This was already a little unfair to both sides. Anyone could eat pills, but it was difficult for demons to use talismans. However, basic talismans were not strong, they could still accept it. Wang Daoyuan told Hu Yu in private that he was willing to sell magic tools and some other things. However, it all depended on the half-demon's ability to deceive the demons. After dealing with this major issue, the remaining small matters would be left to Jiang Jingming to deal with. After staying in the station for several days, Wang Daoyuan left once more and returned to the underground branch. He entered Zhou Wan's cave dwelling and continued to comprehend other laws. With the law of fire as a reference, he also had the 5 elemental spiritual fire to study. It only took him about a year to comprehend the laws of earth, metal, water, and wood according to the order of the 5 elements. Now he could form his gold core at any moment. However, core formation had an extremely high requirement for spiritual qi. At the very least, one had to have a spiritual vein of the 4th level or a heavenly material and earthly treasure. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to form his gold core if he didn't have enough spiritual qi. In particular, he had an acquired spirit body. Various ancient books only mentioned acquired spirit bodies, but did not give a detailed introduction. He also couldn't be sure what kind of trouble would occur during the core formation. In the entire Beiyuan Zhou Xian, there were very few places suitable for him to form his gold core. Perfected Lei Yan also said that he should go to the Treasure Tripod Mountain to form his gold core. The Treasure Tripod Mountain had an upper-grade level 4 non-elemental spirit vein, and the spirit qi there was close to level 5. Naturally, forming his gold core would not be a problem. Now he could not openly go to the Treasure Tripod Mountain. He was the guardian of the Guiyan market. If he left openly, he would be leaving his post without permission. If he informed Luo Jiyo, that bastard would not agree. It was better to leave secretly. In the past year, the situation in Shanbei had become more chaotic. The conflict between demons and half-demons had intensified. However, wars in the cultivation world were especially long. From the conflict to the end of the war, it was not strange that it would take hundreds of years. In addition, the demons and half-demons were divided into groups and tribes, each occupying a piece of land. Shanbei was not as rich in spirit qi as the sky/mountain range. The demons and half-demons were very scattered and there was no unified upper echelon. Even if there was an all-out war, it would be between the neighboring demons and half-demons. However, in 100 to 200 years, there would be no clear winner. As long as the underworld sect did not take the initiative to interfere, the fire would not reach Shanbei within 100 years. However, he still had to make some preparations. Wang Daoyuan walked to the backyard of the cave abode and entered Zhou Wan's boudoir. The furnishings inside were simple. There was a carved wooden bed and a long offering table. There were flowers and spirit fruits on the table. In addition, there was a square table and a few chairs. Seeing him walk in, Zhou Xian smiled and asked, "Deputy Hallmaster, why did you dare to come in? Have you given up resisting?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "I would rather die than surrender. How can I give up resisting? Now that I have comprehended the 5 elemental laws, I am going to the treasure tripod mountain of the Divine Weapon Pavilion to form my core. Before I leave, there are some things I need to tell you." Then he took out a jade talisman and said, "This is a communication jade talisman to contact the underworld sect. Now Jiang Jingming is taking care of the daily affairs for me. If he has something he can't solve, he will use the communication jade talisman to contact me. You can just reply for me. Hallmaster, you are very smart. Isn't it a piece of cake to fool Jiang Jingming? Also, if something happens to the north of the mountain, it will affect the south of the mountain. Hallmaster, please take care of our clan." Zhou Xian took the communication jade talisman and said, "It's just a small matter. It won't be a problem. With your temperament after forming your core, I'm afraid you will still go to the southern wasteland to look for the essence of earth, right?" Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "After forming my core, it will be very difficult for me to find time to go to the southern wasteland. I'd better take this opportunity to get the essence of earth back. With all 5 of my natal magic tools, I won't be afraid of anyone in the underworld sect." Zhou Xian was silent for a long time before she said, "You must come back alive." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Don't worry. After being teased by you for so long, I still haven't taken my revenge. I will definitely come back in one piece. When the time comes, I will let you know how powerful I am." After chatting with Zhou Xian for a long time, he disguised himself and left the Guiyan Market Square for the Qingli Market Square. Although there was a shop of the Divine Weapon Pavilion in the Guiyan Market Square, the scale was small and there was no flying boat directly to the treasured Cauldron Mountain. The person in charge of the Divine Weapon Pavilion was He Yuanqing's disciple and would not leak the information. It would be difficult for the underworld sect to detect them if they left the Qingli Market Square. The operation went smoothly. They successfully boarded the flying boat of the Divine Weapon Pavilion and left the territory of the underworld sect. 20 days later, they arrived at the treasured Cauldron Mountain. When they arrived at the door of their master's cave, the old man was overjoyed and quickly called Wang Daoyuan into the cave. He used his spiritual sense to examine Wang Daoyuan's cultivation and nodded. "You have really cultivated to the peak of the Violet Palace realm. It has only been 10 years since you left here. This cultivation speed has surpassed most of the heavenly spiritual roots. With your perception and my guidance, you will definitely not need 10 years to comprehend the 5 elemental laws. You are only 190 years old now. Even after 10 years, you will only be 200 years old. It is very difficult for a 200 years old golden core realm cultivator with a heavenly spiritual root." Wang Daoyuan condensed a ball of red sun primordial fire in his hand and used his spiritual sense to control the flame. Without increasing the input of spiritual power, the flame's height increased by half an inch. The Thunder Flame Taoist master was stunned. Then he asked in surprise, "You have comprehended the fire elemental laws?" Wang Daoyuan nodded and replied, "I have comprehended the 5 elemental laws. My physical body and true essence are sufficient. I can form my core now." The Thunder Flame Taoist master was overjoyed. "I have really picked up a treasure. In 10 years, you have broken through to the Golden Core realm from the late stage of the Violet Palace realm. Even in the ancient times when spiritual qi was abundant, it was still a rare existence." After he finished speaking, he took out a storage bag and handed it to Wang Daoyuan. "This is what I have prepared for you. When the innate spiritual body forms the core, other than the 9 golden core lightning tribulations, there will also be the 5 elemental lightning tribulations. You have the acquired 5 elemental spiritual body, so I am not sure if there will be the 5 elemental lightning tribulations. However, since you have refined the 5 elemental spiritual fire, you have to be careful." Wang Daoyuan took the storage bag and opened it. He sighed inwardly. "Master is so generous." Chapter 503. Wang Daoyuan opened the storage pouch and saw that it was full of magic tools. Among them, there were 4 low-grade 4th-rank magic tools and 3 mid-grade 4th-rank magic tools. These magic tools were all defensive magic tools made of high-quality materials. The 3 mid-grade 4th-rank magic tools were all shields. The smallest one was a round shield with a diameter of more than 3 meters. Master really loves his disciple. According to the strength of Zhou Xian's core formation Heavenly Tribulation, these things wouldn't be a problem at all to deal with the 9 core formation Heavenly Tribulations. Low-grade 4th-rank magic tools were enough to withstand the first 6 lightning bolts. With 3 mid-grade 4th-rank magic tools, it wouldn't be hard for them to withstand the last 3 lightning bolts. Below the magic tools was a bottle of low-grade 4th-rank medicinal pills with the words, Blood Essence Heaven Returning Pill, written on the bottle. Wang Daoyuan had only heard of this medicinal pill before. It was refined with the blood essence of 4th-rank demon beasts or vicious beasts as the main ingredient. It was also the only type of 4th-rank healing medicinal pill that could be refined in large quantities. After consuming it, it would only take a quarter of an hour to completely refine it. It was very suitable for tribulation transcendence. However, Wang Daoyuan had the Azure Dragon Pearl, so this medicinal pill would only have a supplementary effect. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Many thanks, Master. But isn't this a bit too much? There were 9 core formation heavenly tribulations and I could withstand the first 6 with magic." Unexpectedly, Master Lei Yan took out a large earth yellow seal and said, "There's no harm in being prepared. Who knows whether or not you'll encounter the 5 elements tribulation. This is a thick earth seal that I refined by imitating the Kirin seal. If you really do encounter the 5 elements tribulation, ordinary magic tools won't be able to help. This thing can temporarily replace the Kirin seal." This thick earth seal was low-grade 4th rank. Its main ingredient was thick earth mystic crystal, and its tool pattern was also quite similar to the Kirin seal. However, it wasn't a life-bound magic tool and couldn't be integrated into the 5 elements heaven-suppressing seal. If used to unleash the Kirin seal's accompanying magic, the power it could unleash was definitely higher than that of mid-grade 4th rank magic tools. Seeing his master take out another magic tool, Wang Daoyuan was a bit embarrassed. He had thought of all the things he hadn't thought of. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Master, this is enough. My body is strong and I have refined the 5 elemental spiritual fire. If there is really a 5 elemental tribulation, I can withstand it." Taoist Lei Yan smiled. "These are all the works I made when I was studying the art of refining. They're just worldly possessions not worth mentioning. You already have 4 intrinsic Dharma artifacts. It's impossible for you to comprehend the charm of the 5 elements divine beasts in a short period of time. However, these 4 magic tools had to be refined to at least the upper grade of the 3rd rank. Otherwise, you won't be of any help when dealing with the heavenly tribulation." Wang Daoyuan had made preparations long ago. The vermilion bird fan and azure dragon bead were both high-grade rank 3 items right after they were refined. When his cultivation had just reached the late stage of the Violet Palace realm, the white tiger blade had also been forged into a 3rd-tier high-grade weapon. As for the black tortoise shield, when it was first refined, it was only a mid-grade tier 3 magic artifact, but after many years of nurturing, it had become a high-grade tier 3 magic artifact not long ago. With 4 upper-grade tier 3 natal dharma artifacts, the power of the 5 elements devil vanquishing seal was greater than the all-out attack of an ordinary early-stage golden core cultivator. By the time he underwent the tribulation, he would have already formed his golden core. When he used the 5 elements devil vanquishing seal at that time, its power would definitely surpass the all-out attack of an ordinary mid-stage golden core cultivator. The heavenly tribulation was a test for cultivators and they couldn't just focus on killing themselves. The strongest attack would at most have the power of a mid-stage golden core cultivator. Using the 5 elements devil vanquishing seal would definitely be able to withstand it. Of course, there was only one chance and it couldn't be used in advance. Wang Daoyuan replied, "Master, don't worry. All 4 of my natal dharma artifacts have already reached the upper grade of the 3rd rank." Perfected Thunderflame took out a jade slip and said, "That's good. This is my insight on forming my golden core. Take a look. Don't move around in my cave abode. I'll go ask the pavilion master for permission to borrow the heavenly tribulation valley of the divine weapon pavilion." With that, he left the cave abode. Wang Daoyuan also took advantage of this time to claim ownership of the newly obtained Dharma artifacts. Half a day later, Perfected Thunderflame returned to the cave abode with a smile. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings, Master. Seeing how happy you are, Does the Pavilion Master agree to let me borrow the Heavenly Tribulation Valley? Perfected Thunderflame smiled. That's right. My opponents weren't around today. I mentioned this to the Pavilion Master and he agreed. I even went to the Heavenly Tribulation Valley to clean it up. If you're ready, you can start forming your golden core at any time. Wang Daoyuan replied, Thank you, Master. I'm ready and can form my golden core now. Perfected Thunderflame nodded. Alright, follow me. Bringing Wang Daoyuan with him, Perfected Thunderflame left the Treasured Cauldron Mountain and headed west. 100 li west of the Treasured Cauldron Mountain was a valley that spanned more than 50 li from north to south and 10 li from east to west. This mountain was connected to the spirit vein of the Treasured Cauldron Mountain, and the concentration of spirit chi was also at the upper grade of the 4th rank. This was the Heavenly Tribulation Valley of the Divine Weapon Pavilion that was specially used for cultivators to break through their tribulations. Because formations would cause the Heavenly Tribulation to intensify, there were no formations in the Heavenly Tribulation Valley. Usually there were only a few Zifu realm cultivators standing guard here. The concentration of spirit chi here made it a good place for cultivation. Now that they heard that someone was undergoing a tribulation, the guards all gathered outside the valley to watch the show. Perfected Thunderflame pointed at a stone altar in the middle of the valley. That stone altar is the best place to undergo the tribulation. You can go there. Wang Daoyuan nodded and flew towards the stone altar on his sword. After landing, he sat cross-legged in the middle of the stone altar. Following the methods recorded in the various core formation insights, he began to condense the true essence in his body. Ever since the foundation establishment stage, cultivators had been constantly increasing the quantity and quality of their liquefied true essence. Now it was time to take another step forward. Circulating the 5-spirit immortal transformation art, the liquefied true essence in his dantian condensed and compressed, forming a colorless transparent water ball that was about 5 inches in diameter. At the same time, it continuously absorbed spirit chi from the outside world, refining it into the 5 elements and condensing it into true essence, fusing it into the transparent water ball and compressing it. The concentration of spirit chi here was enough for him to absorb for the time being. No spirit chi whirlpool appeared. Only a weak wind of spirit chi formed around him. The liquefied true essence kept increasing and compressing. The entire transparent water ball grew very slowly. Almost no changes could be seen. 3 months later, the transparent water ball had already reached 3 feet in diameter. No matter how much Wang Daoyuan compressed it, it was useless. His dantian could no longer hold any more true essence. Next, he extracted the scarlet essence of chi and blood from his body, fusing it into the transparent water ball. At this time he felt his body was empty, the strength of his body was quickly disappearing. More essence of chi and blood poured out from his organs, replenishing what was consumed. A month later, there wasn't much essence of chi and blood left in his body. What little was left was used to maintain his life. He felt his limbs were weak, as if his body was hollowed out. The water ball didn't grow bigger, only turning blood red. Then he continued to circulate his martial arts, compressing the water ball. This time the water ball could continue to compress. His body could also continue to absorb spirit chi and condense true essence. A month later, the transparent water ball had already solidified, like a blood-red crystal, shining with a bright light. The blood-red crystal ball was only 1 inch in diameter. This was the core of the golden core. Then a spirit chi vortex with a diameter of about 100 feet appeared in the Heaven's Tribulation Valley, absorbing spirit chi from all directions and pouring it into Wang Daoyuan's body. This spirit chi was refined, turning into 5-colored spirit chi. Then the 5-colored spirit chi condensed into a white jade-like solid, wrapping around the core. Another month passed. A white jade-like ball with a diameter of 9 inches appeared in his dantian. This was the embryonic form of the golden core. After the test of the thunder tribulation and the gift of heaven and earth, it could be called a true golden core. At this time, more than 2,000 feet in the air, an illusion that was exactly the same as his golden core appeared. In a moment, the illusion landed in front of Wang Daoyuan. He opened his mouth and swallowed the illusion of the golden core into his stomach, fusing with the embryonic form of the golden core. Then his physical strength quickly recovered. After a few breaths, his physical strength was several times stronger than before. His spirit chi transformed into the golden core and his strength soared. If he encountered the jade scale flood dragon now, there was no need to fight at all, he could kill it with a slap. At this time he knew what it meant by, after swallowing a golden core, I knew that my fate was not in the hands of heaven. Chapter 504. Perfected Thunderflame, who was standing in the distance, revealed a gratified expression. The limit of a golden core was 9 inches and 9 centimeters, but that was only recorded in the ancient books. There was no mention of anyone reaching this limit. There were specific records of those who exceeded 9 inches. However, the number of cultivators in the Divine Weapon Pavilion could be counted on one hand. A 9-inch golden core had not appeared for at least 30,000 years. Now that the spirit chi was declining, high-grade spiritual objects were rare. No matter how talented a cultivator was, they could not fully utilize it. At the core formation stage, those who had a golden core of more than 5 inches were all extremely talented cultivators. At this moment, a dark cloud appeared in the sky above Heaven Tribulation Valley. With Wang Daoyuan as the center, a suppressive aura appeared in a 50-mile radius. The other cultivators retreated to the 50-mile radius. The tribulation cloud quickly grew to a diameter of 50 miles. The golden core tribulation cloud of a cultivator with a heaven spirit root was at most this size. However, the tribulation cloud showed no signs of stopping. It was still expanding rapidly. It finally grew to a diameter of 100 miles before stopping. Wang Daoyuan felt a chill in his heart. His heroic spirit of, my life is not in the hands of the heavens, dissipated by more than half. Zhou Xian's tribulation cloud was only 30 miles in diameter, but it was already extremely powerful. This 100-mile tribulation cloud was going to take his life. Perfected Thunderflame's expression also turned serious. He was worried that the magic weapons he gave were not enough. But now that the tribulation had descended, no one could interfere. At this moment, a white crane flew out from the Treasure Cauldron Mountain and landed beside Perfected Thunderflame. On the back of the crane was a middle-aged cultivator in a white robe. He asked, Thunderflame, your disciple's talent is a little scary. Is it possible to pull him into the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Venerable Lei Yen sighed and said, Pavilion Master, it's not like you don't know the rules of our Divine Weapon Pavilion. He is an elder of the Underworld sect. If we take him in, we will be breaking the rules. I don't want to care about this now. This tribulation is too powerful. I am worried that Daoyuan will not be able to pass this stage. This white-robed cultivator was the Pavilion Master of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, Perfected Cloud Crane. Perfected Cloud Crane sighed and said, Unfortunately, we acted too late. If we could have taken him in before he opened his purple mansion, things would not have been so troublesome now. Your disciple's luck is extremely strong. He won't fail the golden core tribulation. You don't have to worry. At the center of the tribulation cloud, a blue-white lightning bolt as thick as a child's arm struck down. Wang Daoyuan took out a low-grade Tier 4 shield and easily blocked this lightning tribulation. The next 2 blue and white lightning tribulations quickly descended, and the 4th-tier low-grade shield was undamaged. Not only did he not show any joy, his mood became even heavier. The power of these 3 tribulations was no different from Zhou Xian's tribulation. The tribulation clouds were several times larger, so the power of the lightning tribulation would definitely be greater. The first 3 lightning tribulations didn't change, which was, the rat pulling the shovel. The big head is at the back. Wang Daoyuan felt a subtle force of destruction and vitality enter his meridians through the shield and finally merge with the embryonic Jindan in his dantian. After absorbing this special energy, there was no obvious change in the embryonic form of the golden core. This kind of power was called the power of the heavenly tribulation. It could refine the embryonic form of the golden core into a real golden core. Soon the second wave of 3 lightning tribulations descended, destroying 3 low-grade Tier 4 magic tools. This wave of the power of the heavenly tribulation was much stronger. After the golden core absorbed it, many golden spots appeared. After a quarter of an hour, the 3rd wave of the heavenly tribulation descended. The 4th-tier low-grade magic tools couldn't completely block the purple lightning tribulation. Wang Daoyuan directly took out a 4th-tier mid-grade shield to block the lightning tribulation. The 7th lightning tribulation heavily damaged a 4th-tier mid-grade shield, but Wang Daoyuan himself was unharmed. The 8th lightning tribulation descended and he took out a 4th-tier mid-grade shield again. This shield was directly shattered. This lightning tribulation still had about 1/10 of its power left and it hit him. However, this remaining power couldn't be considered very strong. Wang Daoyuan also felt that his body was a little numb, and his internal organs were faintly aching. However, he didn't suffer too much damage. The 9th lightning tribulation descended once again. Wang Daoyuan used the remaining 4th-tier low-grade magic tool, the 4th-tier mid-grade magic tool, and the previously damaged 4th-tier mid-grade magic tool to block it. A 3-meter purple lightning tribulation descended. This power was far stronger than Zhou Xian's 9th heavenly tribulation. The 3 magic tools resisted for a moment before they were all shattered. Nearly 30% of the power still hit him. This 30% power was also very strong. He continuously spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. The tribulation cloud in the sky didn't dissipate, nor did it turn into a golden cloud. It didn't even shrink in size. His became a little thinner. At least 3/4 of its power hadn't been released. Wang Daoyuan hurriedly took a blood essence sky-restoring pill and activated the Azure Dragon Pearl to heal his internal injuries. After a quarter of an hour, his injuries were 70 to 80% healed. After the 9th golden core lightning tribulation, the golden core in his body turned from white jade to gold. The golden core now was the real golden core. At this moment, a silver lightning bolt as thick as a bucket fell from the tribulation cloud. In terms of power, it was far inferior to the 9th golden core lightning tribulation. However, this silver lightning carried a murderous aura. If it hit him, it would definitely cause a lot of damage. Wang Daoyuan no longer defended passively. He took out the white tiger blade and used the sword shadow divine light technique. 10 sword shadows appeared and slashed at the silver lightning along with the white tiger blade. The silver lightning seemed to be too weak. It was actually broken by Wang Daoyuan's attack. Then the black, green, red and yellow lightning bolts descended one after another. Wang Daoyuan also used magic tools and spells to break them. These 5 lightning bolts belonged to the 5 elements. It should be the 5 elements tribulation. However, it was surprisingly weak. However, the tribulation cloud in the sky didn't weaken significantly. It was obvious that the lightning tribulation wasn't that simple. After the 5 lightning bolts were broken, the tribulation cloud rolled and formed 5 vortexes. Wang Daoyuan summoned his 4 natal magic tools and the thick earth seal to deal with the changes in the lightning tribulation at any time. After a while, the phantom of a divine beast descended from each of the 5 vortexes. Wang Daoyuan was very familiar with these 5 divine beasts. His purple mansion phenomenon was exactly these 5. Outside the range of the tribulation cloud, perfected Lei Yan looked worried. Generally, cultivators with spiritual bodies would only face one tribulation of the 5 elements tribulation. The simplest one was a lightning bolt of the 5 elements. The phantom of a divine beast was already the most difficult 5 elements tribulation. Even for spirit body cultivators, it was extremely difficult for them to defeat divine beasts of the same level. The 5 divine beasts that appeared all had the strength of an inferior grade tier 4. Wang Daoyuan wanted to deal with 5 divine beasts of the same level alone. Moreover, these divine beast phantoms weren't just for show. Each divine beast had an extremely strong charm. The divine beast phantoms were only about 10 feet long. They were still absorbing the power of the lightning tribulation from the tribulation cloud to strengthen themselves. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to delay any longer. The remaining power of the tribulation cloud was still very strong. If he let the divine beast phantoms continue to grow, he would soon be powerless to resist. Wang Daoyuan's strongest Dharma artifact was undoubtedly the white tiger blade. The white tiger blade was of the metal element. Metal restrained wood. Killing the Azure Dragon Phantom first would have the highest success rate. He activated the Azure Dragon Pearl, the Vermilion Bird Fan, and the Black Tortoise Shield to reveal their Dharma artifacts. The thick earth seal didn't have its Dharma artifact true form, so he personally went to battle. The 4 Dharma artifacts held back the divine beasts of the same element. He held the white tiger blade tightly with both hands. The Dharma artifact true form resonated with the purple mansion phenomenon. Then the Dharma artifact true form merged with the white tiger blade again. The white tiger sword intent also released a murderous aura and merged with the white tiger blade. He used the cloud mist escape and rushed toward the Azure Dragon Phantom. This was the strongest killing move he could use in an instant. His figure instantly appeared in front of the Azure Dragon. The white tiger blade and 10 sword shadows pierced the Azure Dragon's mouth at the same time. The sword light flashed and the Azure Dragon phantom collapsed. The 2 claws of the Azure Dragon had also scratched his chest, leaving behind 10 bone-deep wounds. 10 miles ahead, a new Azure Dragon phantom appeared, but it was much dimmer. Where the Azure Dragon phantom collapsed, it left behind pure wood attribute spirit chi. Chapter 505. Wang Daoyuan absorbed all the spirit chi left behind by the Azure Dragon into his body. His life spiritual fire quickly refined the wood-type spirit chi to replenish his spirit chi. In addition to the power of the heavenly tribulation, there was also a trace of the Azure Dragon's charm in the wood-type spirit chi. He drew the Azure Dragon's charm into his mind and merged it with the Azure Dragon avatar. He immediately felt that he had made great progress in his understanding of the Azure Dragon's charm. Then he used his divine consciousness to control the Azure Dragon Pearl's Dharma artifact to heal the 10 wounds on Xiao's chest. A dark green light shone on the wound, but the wound only stopped bleeding. It did not show any signs of healing. He used his divine consciousness to check the wounds and found that there was a destructive force on the wounds that prevented them from healing. If he did not get rid of this destructive force, he would not be able to recover. However, this destructive force was quite difficult to deal with. It would take a long time to get rid of it with his life force. Now that he was at the critical moment of transcending the tribulation, he did not have the time to care about this. It was enough to stop the bleeding and prevent the wounds from worsening. Wang Daoyuan used his divine consciousness to check the other 4 divine beast phantoms. He found that after the Azure Dragon was defeated, the speed of their growth slowed down. This time Wang Daoyuan was interested. Quickly killing a divine beast could restore his spirit chi, refine his golden core, and enhance his understanding of the divine beast's charm. Apart from being injured and unable to recover, it was the perfect target to take advantage of. It would take at least a few years to comprehend the divine beast's charm with the help of a natal Dharma artifact. Now that there was a shortcut, he could not let it go. It did not matter if he was injured. After transcending the 5-element tribulation, he would be rewarded by heaven and earth. As long as he was not completely dead, he would be able to recover. The Azure Dragon Phantom had just reformed. It seemed that its strength was less than half of before. If he wanted to take advantage of it, he had to catch one and make it bald. He used the cloud escape again and fled toward the Azure Dragon. This time it did not take him much effort. The 10 sword phantoms killed the Azure Dragon. Unfortunately, there was too little spirit chi left this time. It was too weak for him to comprehend the charm and refine his golden core. The Azure Dragon appeared again, but it was weaker than the last time. Continuing to kill it would not have much effect. It was better to keep it alive first and let it absorb more tribulation cloud's power. This time Wang Daoyuan's target was the vermilion bird. Kirin and Black Tortoise had strong defense, while White Tiger's attack power was too strong. Using the water dragon technique, a 5,000 to 6,000 feet long black dragon appeared. Wang Daoyuan transformed the black dragon into a water dragon armor to protect himself. He controlled the original form of the Black Tortoise shield and cast the spell that came with it. Black Tortoise suppresses the sea. This spell was obtained from Flying Sand Wanderer and was created by Venerable Fu Mo in his later years. The Black Tortoise had a strong suppressive force to begin with, while Kirin didn't have much of a suppressive force. The Kirin seal's suppressive power mainly relied on the earth element's thickness. The power of the heavenly tribulation vermilion bird was clearly affected by this suppressive force. Wang Daoyuan immediately unleashed the water dragon prison to trap the vermilion bird. The power of the heavenly tribulation vermilion bird was comparable to that of an early-stage golden core cultivator, and it possessed the aura of a mythological beast. His half-baked water dragon prison couldn't suppress it at all. The vermilion bird instantly tore the water dragon prison apart, and Wang Daoyuan's white tiger blade and 10 sword shadows also arrived in front of it. The vermilion bird had no time to dodge and could only spit out a mouthful of flames at Wang Daoyuan. Although his water dragon technique was half-baked, his spiritual energy was strong enough to withstand the flames unscathed. After absorbing the spiritual energy left by the vermilion bird, he chose White Tiger as his next target. After the Azure Dragon and vermilion bird reappeared, They were still not strong enough, so it was fine to ignore them for a short time. Borrowing the power of the 3 life-bound magic artifacts, he killed White Tiger once. This guy's attack power was too strong. If he let it grow, it wouldn't be long before it could kill him. With the black tortoise and vermilion bird's shadows entangled White Tiger, Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to get close. Otherwise, if he were to be attacked by White Tiger head-on, his life would be in danger. He wielded the sky-cleaving sword and controlled the giant White Tiger blade to attack the White Tiger Heavenly Tribulation. White Tiger was fierce. It endured the attacks of the black tortoise and vermilion bird's shadows and desperately pounced on Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan used the smoke escape to dodge, but his left shoulder blade was still hit by a claw. If his bones weren't hard enough, his heart would have been dug out. White Tiger was also killed by the pursuing White Tiger blade and turned into metal elemental spiritual energy. Wang Daoyuan continued to kill the 5 divine beasts, and his injuries became more and more serious. After 5 minutes, Wang Daoyuan's body had more than 50 wounds that couldn't be healed. Affected by his injuries, he could only use 50 to 60% of his strength. However, the strength of the 5 divine beasts was suppressed to the peak of the Violet Palace realm. He continued to kill the divine beasts to obtain their divine essence. Now he had learned the basics of the divine beast's divine essence. Without the heavenly tribulation, he would have to spend at least 10 years to reach this step. His golden core was constantly being tempered by the power of the heavenly tribulation, and now there was a purple-gold color. The heavenly tribulation clouds were thinned by more than 30% because of him. The divine beasts no longer had the power to resist. They were completely tools for him to refine his golden core and comprehend the divine essence. If he continued to waste time like this, he would definitely succeed. At this moment, the heavenly tribulation clouds rolled violently as if they were angry. Then 5 pillars of light appeared and enveloped the 5 divine beasts. The divine beast's strength increased rapidly, and they instantly recovered to the level of the low-grade 4th stage. Wang Daoyuan's heart sank. He was in danger. Even if he exposed the 5 elements spiritual fire, it would be difficult for him to survive. However, he still had to take the risk. With his master's protection, exposing the spiritual fire might not necessarily kill him. Just as he was about to use the 5 elements spiritual fire, the 5 divine beasts approached each other and finally merged into one. The 5 divine beasts merged into one and turned into a strange divine beast. This fellow's body was no different from a true dragon's. It was covered in bright yellow scales, had 4 claws and 5 toes, and a pair of forked dragon horns on its head. The strange thing was that this divine beast had a pair of 5-colored wings. Wang Daoyuan quickly realized what this was. It was the legendary true dragon of the dragon clan, Yinglong. Legend had it that the phoenix was also a descendant of Yinglong and had inherited his 5-colored wings. One of Yinglong's sons, Kenma, was also the ancestor of all beasts. He was also a dragon and belonged to the Scaly clan, so he was related to all the divine beasts of the 5 elements. Yinglong raised its head and roared. Wang Daoyuan felt his soul tremble. Then Yinglong stared at him with its pair of dragon eyes. Outside the heavenly tribulation, Perfected Lei Yen looked solemn and asked Perfected Yun He beside him, "Sect Master, have you heard of this heavenly tribulation?" Perfected Yun He shook his head and said nothing. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to be careless and immediately formed the 5 elements demon suppression seal. Yinglong pounced on him. Dodging the heavenly tribulation was only delaying it. It would be more passive if it was caught. The 5 elements demon suppression seal was formed and smashed towards Yinglong. Moments later, Yinglong collided with the 5 elements demon suppression seal. Yinglong's strength was comparable to a mid-Aurus core cultivator and was very close to a late Aurus core cultivator. If Wang Daoyuan was not injured, the 5 elements demon suppression seal would be able to withstand this attack. However, he was severely injured and could only use half of his strength. The 5 elements demon suppression seal collapsed instantly, and all 4 of his natal Dharma artifacts were badly damaged. Wang Daoyuan took out the earthen seal and smashed it towards Yinglong. Soon the earthen seal was also shattered by Yinglong. Wang Daoyuan had nowhere to run. He could only try his best to activate the 5 elements spiritual fire in his golden core to protect his body. He activated the Purple Mansion phenomenon to protect his Purple Mansion and save his life. As the winged dragon descended, Wang Daoyuan's bones emitted a series of cracking sounds. Then he lost consciousness and collapsed to the ground. Outside the range of the heavenly tribulation, Wang Daoyin shouted, "Second brother." Then he was about to rush over. He had been guarding the divine weapon pavilion's property. When he heard that Wang Daoyuan had formed his core, he rushed back. Perfected Lei Yen grabbed him and pointed at the heavenly tribulation clouds in the sky. The heavenly tribulation clouds haven't dispersed. Daoyuan is still alive. At that moment, Yinglong's heavenly tribulation dissipated, and bright yellow spiritual energy spread throughout Wang Daoyuan's body. The thick black heavenly tribulation clouds in the sky began to turn from black to gold. Chapter 506. Wang Daoyuan had successfully transcended the tribulation, signifying the arrival of the gift of heaven and earth. Thunderflame Taoist Master laughed heartily, while Wang Daoyin, who still had an anxious look on his face, laughed as well. Moments later, the tribulation cloud turned completely golden. Then the gift of heaven and earth descended. This time it wasn't golden raindrops that fell, but golden petals. The petals drifted towards Wang Daoyuan after falling from the golden cloud. They landed on his body and disappeared. Wang Daoyuan's vitality was rapidly recovering and his broken bones were regenerating. Wang Daoyin asked Thunderflame Taoist Master, "Master, why is my second brother's gift of heaven and earth different from the ones I've seen before?" Thunderflame Taoist Master stroked his beard and smiled. "This is called a deluge of heavenly flowers. The person transcending the tribulation is extremely lucky. According to the records of the sect, this has only happened 3 times in the tens of thousands of years of Beiyuan's history. All 3 of them were famous experts of their time. Many geniuses of the same era paled in comparison to them." Cloud Crane Taoist Master was also surprised. He didn't expect such a rare sight to appear in front of him. After half a cup of tea's time, Wang Daoyuan's injuries were completely healed and he regained consciousness. He used his consciousness to check his body and was relieved to find that his body had recovered. The golden petals turned into golden energy after entering his body. There was no need for him to refine them as they fused into his body and flowed through his meridians and blood. The golden energy contained some pure spiritual energy, but it wasn't completely spiritual energy. It didn't have much effect on his cultivation, but it had a great impact on his body and foundation. Under the nourishment of the golden energy, his physical body was rapidly strengthening. Moreover, it was strengthening from the inside out. However, there was a limit to the body and it couldn't absorb the golden energy without limit. After half a quarter of an hour, his body had reached its limit and couldn't be strengthened any further. He drew the golden energy into his sea of consciousness. His purple mansion phenomenon and soul were desperately absorbing it. After the golden energy was absorbed by his soul, it fused into the soul origin between his eyebrows. The soul origin was extremely mysterious and no one knew its structure. It was only known that it was related to a person's perception and talent. As long as one's origin wasn't damaged, no matter how severe the damage to one's soul was, there was still a chance for it to recover. Once one's origin was damaged, even if one had a heavenly treasure, it would be useless. After absorbing the golden energy, the Violet Palace manifestation didn't change at all. Another 15 minutes passed, and his divine soul and Violet Palace avatar stopped absorbing the golden energy. It had been more than 15 minutes since the tribulation cloud turned into a golden cloud. Normally, the gifts of heaven and earth would not last more than 15 minutes. However, the golden cloud in the sky was still very large, with a diameter of over 50 miles. It was still far from dissipating. Wang Daoyuan sent the golden energy into the spirit pearl space to see if it was effective. Unexpectedly, as soon as the spiritual bead came into contact with the golden energy, it began to devour it. After he formed his gold core, there were no obvious changes in the space of his spiritual pearl. Now that the golden energy had entered, the 5 spirit veins in the spiritual pearl space began to grow rapidly. It didn't take long for the 5 spirit veins to grow to lower tier 4. The many spiritual plants in the space were also desperately absorbing the golden energy, especially the peach tree saplings and the blood fire hibiscus. After the scarlet feathered crow lost its intrinsic feather, it had been in a bad state. Now that it encountered the golden energy, it instantly became active and absorbed it with all its might. Soon, a reddish gold feather appeared where the natal feather had been at the end of the tail. 15 minutes later, The speed at which the spiritual pearl's space absorbed the golden energy slowed down significantly. The golden cloud in the sky was still about 40 miles in diameter. After a large number of golden petals landed on Wang Daoyuan, they couldn't be absorbed and the golden energy dissipated. Wang Daoyuan stood up and bowed to his master. Master, there are too many gifts of heaven and earth. I can't absorb all of them. You should absorb some as well. Senior brothers and martial nephews, come as well. Lei Yan didn't decline. He rode on the auspicious cloud and brought Wang Daoyin into the heavenly tribulation valley. A portion of the golden petals landed on the two of them. Wang Daoyin had just broken through to the mid-stage Violet Palace realm, and his body had a lot of room for growth. Now that he was nourished by the golden energy, his qi and blood were clearly strengthened. On the other hand, Lei Yan was already about 940 years old, and his cultivation had long reached the peak of the golden core realm. If he didn't break through to the half-step Yuanying realm, his body wouldn't be able to make any significant progress. However, Wang Daoyuan could still feel that his blood was rapidly increasing. Soon, several Violet Palace realm cultivators of Lei Yan's lineage also arrived at the heavenly tribulation valley. Zhao Liang and eighth sister's son Wang Mingting had already reached the peak of the foundation establishment realm. He also arrived at the heavenly tribulation valley. Yunhe asked Wang Daoyuan, "Martial nephew Daoyuan, I have a disciple who was heavily injured many years ago when he was patrolling the southern wasteland. His auris core was shattered, and it will be difficult for him to make any further progress in his cultivation. The gifts of heaven and earth after the golden core lightning tribulation have an extremely strong healing effect on all injuries. Martial nephew's extravagant gifts of heaven and earth have an even better healing effect. I want that disciple to absorb some of the gifts of heaven and earth. If there's anything you want, just say the word." The pavilion master of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, a half-step Yuanying realm cultivator, and one of the top experts in the world, personally made a request. Wang Daoyuan naturally could not refuse. Moreover, he was forming his auris core in someone else's territory. He cupped his fists and said, "Martial uncle, you're too serious. I borrowed the spirit vein of the Divine Weapon Pavilion to form my auris core, and I already owe the Divine Weapon Pavilion a favor. Since that senior brother needs the gifts of heaven and earth, feel free to come." Yunhe smiled and said, "Thank you, martial nephew." After a while, an early golden core cultivator with an unstable aura arrived at the heavenly tribulation valley on an auspicious cloud. He greeted Wang Daoyuan and expressed his gratitude. Then he walked into the heavenly tribulation valley and absorbed the golden energy. This gifts of heaven and earth lasted for more than an hour before it completely ended. Everyone present more or less gained some benefits. Even the spirit vein of the heavenly tribulation valley absorbed some of the golden energy, and the concentration of spirit qi increased slightly. The golden cloud dispersed, and everyone cupped their fists and thanked Wang Daoyuan before returning to the treasured cauldron mountain. Wang Daoyuan also rode on an auspicious cloud and tried to fly. After returning to the treasured cauldron mountain, Lei Yan returned to his cave abode and meditated to cultivate. After a quarter of an hour, Wang Daoyuan suddenly felt that the spirit qi on his master's body had increased significantly. Then a spirit qi vortex with a diameter of 100 feet appeared above the cave abode. At the bottom of the treasured cauldron valley, the concentration of spirit qi had reached the peak of level 5. It was extremely difficult to cause such a large spirit qi vortex. Yunhe quickly arrived outside the cave abode. Wang Daoyuan cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, martial uncle. May I ask what's wrong with my master?" Yunhe smiled and said, "Senior brother Lei Yan is about to break through to the half-step Yuanying. More than 400 years ago he suffered a serious internal injury and his foundation was damaged. Otherwise, with his talent he wouldn't have been stuck at the peak of golden core for hundreds of years. After receiving your gifts of heaven and earth this time, his old injuries have probably healed. Coupled with hundreds of years of accumulation, breaking through to the half-step Yuanying is just around the corner." Half a month later, a powerful aura spread out from the cave abode. A purplish gold golden core appeared out of thin air and fell into the cave abode. A purplish gold golden core was enough to form a nascent soul. If one could break through to the half-step Yuanying, the next step would be to shatter the golden core and fuse the spirit and purple palace together with the shattered golden core. When the half-step Yuanying was formed, the heavenly tribulation of Yuanying would descend. However, the current Beiyuan Zhou Xian was not enough to support a cultivator to break through to the half-step Yuaning. Cultivating a purplish golden core was the limit. An hour later, Lei Yan walked out of the cave abode. Yunhe cupped his fists and said, "Congratulations, senior brother. You've finally broken through to the half-step Yuaning." Wang Daoyuan and the others also bowed and said, "Congratulations, master." Lei Yan sighed and said, "It's just breaking through to the half-step Yuaning. There's nothing to congratulate. The half-step Yuaning only increases one's combat strength. His lifespan won't increase. No matter how strong he is in battle, he won't be able to escape death after 50 years. Chapter 507. After exchanging some pleasantries, the disciples of the Divine Weapon Pavilion who had come to watch and gain experience all left. Lei Yan's disciples and grand disciples also returned to their respective residences. Wang Daoyuan and the two half-step Yuaning cultivators entered their residences. Immortal Yunhe and Lei Yan exchanged a few words, then said to Wang Daoyuan, "Martial nephew Daoyuan, there are some things that I have to say. You've already formed your golden core and your talent is rare. There's a saying that shallow water can't raise a dragon. The underworld sect is weak and its inheritance is mediocre. I have some understanding of the underworld sect. Those people don't have any abilities but they are jealous of others. If you continue to stay in the underworld sect, it may affect your future path. If you join the Divine Weapon Pavilion, Senior Lei Yan can accept you as a true disciple. A half-step Yuaning true disciple and a golden core cultivator can immediately become an elder. When you become a half-step Yuaning, it's not impossible for you to sit in my position." Wang Daoyuan sighed and said, "I also know that the underworld sect is not tolerant. If I continue to stay in the underworld sect, I'll be ostracized. But the clan has been there for hundreds of years and has hundreds of thousands of people. We can't give up so easily. If I join the Divine Weapon Pavilion, I'll be betraying the underworld sect. Those people from the underworld sect can't do anything to me, but the hundreds of thousands of people can't withstand the underworld sect's revenge." Immortal Yunhe nodded, then took out a token and said, "It's not that there's no way to get the best of both worlds. This is the Divine Weapon Pavilion's Guest Elder token. You can be a Guest Elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion and enjoy the treatment of an elder. You don't have to join the Divine Weapon Pavilion directly. This way, you won't have to leave the underworld sect even if you're a member of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. I don't believe that those golden core cultivators of the underworld sect would dare to touch a Guest Elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion." This identity was very advantageous. If the clan wanted to develop in the future, they needed more people to form their golden core. Going through the golden core heavenly tribulation was like burning a fourth-grade magic weapon. There were only a few forces that could refine fourth-grade magic weapons in large quantities. Even if they had the inheritance of a fourth-grade weapon refiner, it would be difficult to obtain sufficient fourth-grade materials. The Divine Weapon Pavilion had quite a number of Tier 4 spirit ores, so the materials were not a problem at all. In addition, the status of the Guest Elder was also a great deterrent to the Netherworld sect. In front of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the Netherworld sect was just a small force. Master does not have much lifespan left. After Master passes away, before little brother forms his Azoth core, he will be in a state where he does not have any backing in the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The reason why the Netherworld sect dared to suppress the Wang family previously was because they had anticipated this period. They didn't think that Wang Daoyuan and his brother would be able to form their gold core before Lei Yan passed away. Without the protection of Taoist Lei Yan, Wang Daoyuan's chances of forming his core were slim. Now that he had the position of Guest Elder, he could be considered half a member of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Luo Jiuyou and his gang did not dare to deal with him openly. As a Guest Elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, he naturally could not reject such benefits. Wang Daoyuan received the token, cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Martial Uncle. This disciple is willing to be the Guest Elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion." Taoist Yunhe stroked his beard and smiled. "Good. During this period of time, the Divine Weapon Pavilion has been filled with happy events. Senior Lei Yan has broken through to the half-step Yuaning, my disciple Yu Buqing has recovered his gold core, and now Martial Nephew Daoyuan has become the Guest Elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. You master and disciple can chat first." I will go and arrange these things. After Taoist Yunhe left, Taoist Lei Yan smiled. In the past I always wanted to break through to the half-step Yuanying, but I was injured in the early years and damaged my foundation so I could not break through. Now that I don't have much lifespan left, it is meaningless to break through. Wang Daoyuan comforted him. Master, you don't have to be like this. Beiyuan Zhou Xian used to have many soul formation cultivators. Who knows, there might still be treasures in the abodes of some senior experts that can form Yuanying. I will stay at the treasured Cauldron Mountain for a while to repair my natal Dharma artifact. After that, I will head to the demon-resisting mountain. At that time I will search the southern wasteland and maybe find a 5th-grade spirit item. Taoist Lei Yan shook his head. If it is so easy to find a 5th-grade spirit item, Beiyuan Zhou Xian would not have no Yuanying cultivators for 10,000 years. That's right, I am now a half-step Yuanying cultivator. My old injuries have healed and my strength has increased greatly. I will bring you to the demon-resisting mountain and bring back the earth essence. Wang Daoyuan quickly refused. Master, don't go to the demon-resisting mountain. There are many gold core devil cultivators there and there might even be devils there. You will be too conspicuous there and might be attacked by them. Although a half-step Yuanying cultivator is strong, it will be difficult for him to withstand the attacks of many gold core devil cultivators. I have refined the spiritual fire so my spiritual power is very mixed. Plus, I am a body refinement cultivator. Normal people will not be able to recognize me if I pretend to be a devil cultivator. After I repair my natal Dharma artifact and refine it, my strength will be stronger than most gold core middle stage cultivators. I will be able to retreat against gold core late stage devil cultivators. As long as I don't expose my identity, I won't be in any danger. Lei Yan Taoist master weighed the pros and cons then nodded. You're right, but I am worried. My foundation was damaged in the southern wasteland, which is why I was unable to break through to the half-step Yuanying realm for hundreds of years. You have great fortune and might be able to form the Yuanying realm in the future. Don't follow my path and delay your path. Wang Daoyuan agreed. Master, don't worry. I have been traveling outside since I was 20 years old. Protecting myself is not a problem. Lei Yan Taoist master did not insist. I will do as you say. If you are in danger, use the purple lightning evil punishing token. Although it is not very powerful and can't help you much, it can let me sense your location. I will hurry over to save you. After that, Wang Daoyuan stayed in his master's cave to repair his 4 natal Dharma artifacts. Yinglong's final attack had caused great damage to his natal Dharma artifacts. Even though his cultivation had reached the early stage of the Golden Core realm, it took him nearly a year to repair all 4 Dharma artifacts. During this year, the Divine Weapon Pavilion also held a small celebration to celebrate 3 happy events. However, they did not hold a big celebration and only invited a few small forces nearby. The news of Wang Daoyuan forming his gold core and becoming the guest elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion also spread. Through the communication channels of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, he understood the situation of his family. After the underworld sect learned of his matter, they did not do anything and everything was peaceful. Wang Daoyuan was also relieved. He calmed himself down and stayed at the precious Cauldron Mountain, asking his master for more information about the Golden Core realm. After the 4 natal Dharma artifacts were repaired, Wang Daoyuan used the 4th-grade Heavenly Demon Metal and Tai Gold to refine the White Tiger Blade so that it could become a 4th-grade Dharma artifact as soon as possible. The 4 natal Dharma artifacts, the Black Tortoise Shield and the Vermilion Bird Fan, were all 3rd-grade superior-grade Dharma artifacts. It was not easy to find the materials and could only be slowly nourished with spiritual fire. The Tsang Dragon Pearl was strong enough. Its original material was very close to the 4th grade, and now it was only a step away from becoming a 4th-grade Dharma artifact. However, Wang Daoyuan did not have the ability to find a 4th-grade Pseudo-Dragon Pearl. The upgrade of the Tsang Dragon Pearl could only be done slowly. The only thing that could rapidly upgrade its grade was the White Tiger Blade. He used the Tai Golden Flame to refine the essence of the Heavenly Demon Metal and Tai Gold and merged it into the White Tiger Blade. After that, he improved the White Tiger Blade's pattern. After more than a month, the White Tiger Blade's grade was upgraded to 4th grade inferior grade. With the 4th grade inferior grade White Tiger Blade, it was possible to kill a mid-stage Golden Core Realm cultivator instantly. During this tribulation, the 5 elements divine beasts of the heavenly tribulation finally merged into Yinglong. This provided him with a direction to improve the 5 elements demon subduing seal in the future. After the 5 Dharma artifacts were combined, they could also be combined into a Dharma artifact similar to the Yinglong seal. However, in order to improve such a Dharma artifact and unleash an extremely strong power, he had to comprehend Yinglong's charm. It was extremely difficult to comprehend Yinglong's charm. He had never heard of any Dharma art that was related to Yinglong. As such, he could not find the Yinglong visualization diagram. Without the visualization diagram, how could it be easy to comprehend Yinglong's charm? Chapter 508. Wang Daoyuan didn't set off immediately after refining the White Tiger Blade to low-grade Grade 4. Instead, he continued to refine other magic tools. The Azure Dragon Pearl wasn't far from a Grade 4 magic tool. After refining it with the spiritual fire of life for a while and improving its pattern, it should be about there. Moreover, the Azure Dragon Pearl and the Vermilion Bird Fan hadn't been refined for long, so they weren't connected yet. Previously, he had taken advantage of the heavenly tribulation and comprehended the charm of the 5 elements divine beasts. Refining his natal magic tools to the point where they were connected would save him a lot of effort. After staying in the Treasure Cauldron Mountain for 3 years, the Azure Dragon Pearl and the Vermilion Bird Fan were connected. During these 3 years, the Azure Dragon Pearl had continuously absorbed the life force in the spiritual fire of life and become a low-grade Grade 4 magic tool. After making all the necessary preparations, Wang Daoyuan bid farewell to his master. Knowing that Wang Daoyuan was leaving, Lei Yan took out a storage bag and gave it to him. This is something I used to deceive people when I was traveling in the southern wasteland in my early years. Wang Daoyuan opened the storage bag to take a look. There was a black cloak and a blood-red heavy sword inside. The cloak's shape wasn't strange, but Wang Daoyuan didn't recognize the material of the cloak. When he probed it with his spiritual sense, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. The blood-red heavy sword was more than 6 feet long and 1 foot wide, like half a door. This was a magic tool commonly used by body refinement cultivators, so there was nothing strange about it. He asked Lei Yan, "Master, how come I've never seen the material of this cloak before?" Lei Yan answered, "I got it when I was roaming the southern wasteland in my early years and killed a late-stage golden core demon. I've never seen the material before, but it's most likely related to demons. Even this heavy sword was obtained from him. When I killed him, I wasn't in the mood to ask him what it was, so I just called it the black magic robe. Even a half-step Yuanying's spiritual sense can't see through it. I've worn this black magic robe many times in the southern wasteland and it's quite effective. You'll be safe with it." After all, the soul-binding silk was only a second-tier material. Could not completely block the divine sense of a golden core cultivator. It was even more useless against a late-stage golden core cultivator. The devil race and devil cultivators of the Yin demon tribe may have stronger divine senses than righteous Dao cultivators of the same level. Relying on the soul-restricting silkworm silk alone, it was impossible to avoid the probing of their divine senses. With this black devil's robe, it would be much easier to ambush and escape. He then asked Lei Yanzhenren about the demon-resisting mountain before leaving the Treasured Cauldron Mountain and heading southeast. He didn't arrogantly step on the auspicious clouds. Instead, he rode on the bone sword that he had obtained when he was roaming the southern wasteland. Flying 4 to 5,000 li in 2 hours was not as fast as flying 7 to 8,000 li in 2 hours, but the advantage was that it was not conspicuous. With the black demon robe draped over his body, even a golden core cultivator would not be able to easily see through his cultivation. It took them half a month to reach the south of the Demon Burial Mountain. The Southern Desolation's territory was vast. From the border of the Southern Desolation to absolute heaven abyss, it was over 300,000 miles. After passing the Demon Burial Mountain, they entered the depths of the Southern Wasteland, where the spiritual qi suddenly became violent. Even devil cultivators without a Violet Palace realm cultivation would be killed by the violent spiritual qi. Most Violet Palace devil cultivators didn't dare to stay outside for too long. However, the adaptability of the human race had always been very strong. Some golden core devil cultivators would set up a formation that could warm the spiritual qi in places with spirit veins and establish a clan. Therefore, the depths of the southern wasteland wasn't a desolate place. There were many low-level devil cultivators and even ordinary people. However, they couldn't leave the protection of the formation unless they reached the Violet Palace realm. Fortunately, devil cultivators were different from righteous Dao cultivators. They cultivated by plundering the cultivation results of other living beings for their own use. It was much easier for them to reach the Violet Palace realm compared to righteous Dao cultivators. However, there were gains and losses. When they reached the core formation stage, their lightning tribulation would be much more terrifying than righteous Dao cultivators. There were many rank 4 spirit veins in the southern wasteland, and there were many golden core devil cultivators establishing their own clans. Wang Daoyuan also saw a few markets established by devil cultivator clans. His goal was the earth essence, so there was no need to complicate matters. Therefore, he didn't enter the market. However, in this place, flying on a sword for a long period of time was a bit too conspicuous. If golden core cultivators didn't fly on a sword, Violet Palace realm cultivators wouldn't be able to fly for long. In order to avoid attracting attention, Wang Daoyuan also rode on a black cloud and flew towards the south. The auspicious clouds of golden core cultivators were purely decorative. There was no problem for them to fly without riding on a cloud. Of course, riding on an auspicious cloud would make them look more stylish. Since it was a decorative item, the appearance and color of the auspicious cloud would be strange. It wouldn't be a problem for the auspicious cloud to transform into a horse. In order to appear more compatible, Wang Daoyuan condensed a black cloud filled with yin qi using water attribute spiritual qi. After using half a month's time, he arrived at the southernmost part of the southern wasteland. This place was already within the range of the demon-resisting mountain. The heaven-ending abyss was just 1,000 miles ahead. Looking at the heaven-ending abyss from afar, he could only see a patch of black qi. This black qi was extremely violent. It was like a huge black wave that continuously surged in the air. It rushed up to the clouds and even blocked the 9 heavens astral wind. With Wang Daoyuan's current cultivation, he would be able to stay in the 9 heavens astral wind for a short while. However, his body would also be severely damaged. This black qi could block the 9 heavens astral wind. Its power might be even stronger than the astral wind. Even peak golden core cultivators wouldn't be able to stay in there for too long. Back then, when Master entered the heaven-ending abyss with peak golden core cultivation, he was also unable to withstand it after only going 100 miles in. Wang Daoyuan was currently only early golden core cultivator. He absolutely didn't dare to take this risk. It was just that this black qi seemed to be blocked by an invisible wall and was unable to spread towards the north. This invisible wall should be the great formation set up by an almighty senior to protect Beiyuan Zhou Xian. The shore of the heaven-ending abyss was the end of Beiyuan Zhou Xian. The earth was severed by that sword back then. This black qi surged out from the cracks in the earth. Above the 9 heavens astral wind, below the severing mountains and valleys, it was indeed worthy of the name heaven-ending abyss. Wang Daoyuan was still self-aware. He knew what he was capable of and wouldn't rashly explore the heaven-ending abyss. However, the spiritual pearl in his Zifu was trembling slightly. It was as if something in the heaven-ending abyss was attracting him. Wang Daoyuan's previous life was a spiritual light nurtured by the spiritual pearl. He could be considered as the spiritual pearl's artifact spirit. Naturally, he could sense the spiritual pearl's reaction. He felt that there were 2 things in the heaven-ending abyss that he desired greatly. Of these 2 things, one was at the southern end of the heaven/mountain range, which was more than 20,000 miles to the south. He could roughly guess what this place was. According to the scene he saw when he opened his Zifu, that should be the place where the spiritual pearl was nurtured. That place could produce an extremely strong attractive force for him and the spiritual pearl. There should be something useful for the spiritual pearl. Who knows, it might be able to repair the cracks on the spiritual pearl. That place was at the edge of the heaven-ending abyss. After obtaining the earth essence, he could go and explore it. The other thing was that it was very close. It was about 4,000 to 5,000 miles to the south of him. It was just that the place was rather deep. It should be in the depths of the heaven-ending abyss. It was at least several 100,000 feet away from the surface. Furthermore, the feeling this place gave him was completely different from the place where the spiritual pearl was nurtured. That place gave him a feeling of home. While the thing in the depths of the heaven-ending abyss made him desire it, there was also a deep sense of fear. He could not guess what exactly was attracting him down there. Of course, even if he knew, it would be useless. Even Yuanian cultivators could not penetrate several 100,000 feet deep into the heaven-ending abyss. At this moment, on the southern shore of the heaven-ending abyss, under a giant plum tree, two old men were playing chess. Both of them had white hair and beards. Their bodies did not carry a trace of spiritual energy fluctuation. They both wore coarse cloth robes. It was just that one of them wore a black robe while the other wore a white robe. The black-robed old man was just about to place down his chess piece when he suddenly stopped. He asked, "Old friend, do you feel that there are movements below the heaven-ending abyss?" The white-robed old man said unconcernedly, "How can I not feel it? This kind of movement is common. It's probably the devil remnants below causing trouble again. If it wasn't for the black gas in the heaven-ending abyss being a hindrance, I would have killed them all with a slap." You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.